according to lizardpeople.com, lizard people are taking over the earth. According to ain'tnomoon.org, the moon isn't really there. It says here, lizard people came from the moon to take over specifically the American government, and also to flatten the earth. Okay, I guess it says that the earth was round once, but now it's flat, and you can find all the proof of this on the earth was round and now is flat.com. The flat earth is circled around the rim with a big ice wall that people call Antarctica, but it's not that. And we are balanced on the back of a giant turtle suspended in the midst of a cosmic ocean. And the lizard people, hold on. Well, are they going to be turtle people? The turtles and the... Okay, it says here that the earth was made by turtle people from Mars.com, that the big turtle is like the king of the lizard people, and the herald of their coming is a podcast called Delete Everything with Patrick Wall.
Yay! That was a lot. I think I love it.
Yeah. A lot of people are going to like tune into that and be like, yeah, fuck yeah. And then they're going to realize we're joking and go, nope, beep, done.
We hate these guys now. They don't believe like we do. They're silly. They're sheeple.
That's fucking sheep. That's that. So the sheep people came from Dimension 11 to fill our media with conspiracy theories.
Oh my God. Hey, folks. Thanks again for being here on Delete Everything Podcast. We're happy. We're happy to have everyone here while we discuss the history of pseudoscience.
We're happy to have no one here while we discuss the history of
We
pseudoscience.
don't have anyone here.
No
Oh my
guest
God.
today. No guest today.
Can I just mention how nice it is to not like? You're happy about it, right?
I'm very happy about it.
We've done 4 in a row with guests, and like
Not to slander our guests. They're lovely people. We're glad that they were
no,
there.
it
The
is. But
episodes are good. But
listen, just for on my end, and I mean, you watched me do it between the 4 guests that we've had for the last 4 episodes. I was like constantly like microphone coaching during recording, which is why a lot of times you hear these guys like oscillate between like a little more reverb because they're back from the microphones too far because they're leaning back in their chairs, and I'm trying to push the microphone in their face while we're mid recording. I'm like, push the fucking microphone in your face, dude.
yeah, finding the levels for 2 people isn't so bad, but 3 people is
and
nice.
editing is just so much less of a bitch with just the 2 of us. It's really nice. So I'm happy that we're going to do a couple of these solo, and then we'll have more guests.
We got more guests. More guests are coming.
We'll have more guests.
Yeah, we got a bunch lined up.
So before we jump in, I just want to remind everybody to please get on Apple Podcasts, get on Spotify, give us 5 stars. It just makes a huge difference for us in terms of like this is a business venture for Riley and I. It just gives us more visibility, makes us more enticing to advertisers, things like that. So I know I sound like a broken record, but I honestly can't beg enough. By the way, I know where these downloads come from. I see you guys. All right. You're already on Apple. You're already on Spotify. You know, just tap those little 3 dots.
Actually, speaking of that, a shout out to all my Michigan homies. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I'm really appreciating that.
Tap those 3 dots. Give us 5 stars. Leave us a review. Tell us anything. We're mostly in it for the 5 stars, but you can tell us what you know. What? Tell us what city you live in. I'm actually genuinely curious to know where our listeners are, because that, you know, one day when we talk about doing live shows, that helps us know where to go. And that's kind of, you know, I don't want to go somewhere where nobody's listening to us.
If we find out you live in like Auburn, New York, we probably won't talk nearly as much shit about that place.
Yeah. As of now, I can talk all the shit I want about Omaha, Nebraska.
Unless you want us to.
Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha.
Where people go to Fuck cattle.
Somewhere in Middle America.
It's the top
That's
part.
a Counting Crow song.
About Omaha?
Omaha, somewhere in Middle America.
So gross.
Heart that matters more.
So, but anyway, yeah, that's my quick rant. That was pretty quick, I feel like.
That wasn't too bad.
But welcome back to Delete Everything Podcast. This is, Riley and I's little monster baby that we've created, and we nurse this little baby weekly with
The
obscure
product of our satanic union.
We nurse our little baby every week with obscure histories, forgotten histories, deleted histories, basically things that live in the dark, dingy corners of our collective memories. So we get together and we try to surface some of those things and fill in the blanks a little bit. So
make jokes about it.
Yeah, some of the things that people don't know or people have forgotten about, and we make some inappropriate jokes in the process, and that's our podcast.
I like to say that it's a comedy podcast posing as a history podcast.
I like to say that we're basically a history podcast disguised as a comedy podcast.
Well, you're wrong.
It's,
you're stupid.
you're wrong. You know what it is? It's when you're a little kid and you see the box of cereal and you're like, I want that little fucking sticky hand in the box of cereal, and you don't give a shit what the cereal is, right? You just want that. I want that comedy in there. And then you get home and you try out the history, and that history tastes pretty goddamn good, doesn't it? It's fucking delicious. Eat up.
And then the comedy is like, oh, this is fucking disappointing.
And the milk is all of our jokes about jizz.
Gross. Ew.
So, also, if you want to send us a message, send us a little love note or probably hate mail.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, we're going to get something eventually.
You can hit us up on deleteeverythingpodcast@gmail.com. We've also got some social media and other ways you can support us, and we'll plug all that stuff at the end of the show. So let's go ahead and get pseudoscientific, shall we?
I was excited for this episode because I suggested this episode a long time ago. There's a story to that, actually, but I just wanted to bring this to the forefront. Okay?
Are you going to tell us the story now, or does it come up later?
You want me to do the first chunker?
I always want to hear your stories, baby boy.
Okay, I'll do my thing, and then you know.
And then I'll do something.
You watch me, and then I'll watch you. Okay, so
it's just the two of us today.
I was driving and I was listening to the fantastic British, I guess you call her a pop star, Kate Bush.
Okay, yeah.
Famed songstress from the late 70s, mid 80s.
She got hot in the 80s.
Yeah, you might know Kate Bush from...
And then she got hot again because of Stranger Things.
Yeah, exactly. You might know her from Stranger Things. That song, Running Up That Hill, got super popular for a while when Stranger Things Season 4 came out.
Yeah.
And that's a good song, but it's not my favorite Kate Bush song.
Yeah, whatever.
But I was watching Stranger Things with my daughter, and... she liked the song, so I was like, yeah, let's listen to Kate Bush then. Mm-hmm. And one of these songs...
That had like a major radio resurgence after that, too. I mean, it was
crazy.
Like on the radio
it was
every second.
Running Up the Hill was like number 2 on all the charts in the world for a second.
Fucking
and
40-year-old song.
Dude, there's an interview with Kate Bush was like, I think that's lovely. I don't quite understand it, but okay.
I saw one where she was talking about, like, somebody was asking her, like, what it was about. They were like, were you running up a hill? She's like, no. Like, were you running down a road? Like,
No, it wasn't.
She was just like very like aloof about the whole thing.
Nope, wasn't doing anything.
She's like, I'm not talking to you about this.
Fuck you.
But anyway, so.
There's a song that she did called "Cloud Bursting" that was like a big hit in England in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And
is that like cloud seeding, what the government does, so that they can create hurricanes to hit specifically red states right before the election?
Give me just a sec,
because I believe that.
I always took cloud bursting.
The lizard people are doing it.
I always thought it was, as I was growing up. There's a big thing that people don't seem to recall, which is just laying on the ground and looking at the sky.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time.
Kids used to do that shit.
Yeah.
But cloud bursting was like you focus on a small cloud in the sky and you focus on it until it like breaks apart, and more of an exercise for like concentration. Obviously clouds are always moving and you never really notice unless you're looking right at them.
I think I was always moving too much to be able to watch a cloud dissipate.
But that's what I thought it was. And I caught a couple of like interesting lyrics. One that I've been repeating in my head a lot. She goes like, "Oh God, Daddy." And I was like, the fuck? So I looked up the lyrics, wondering what the fuck.
Oh God, Daddy.
Oh God, Daddy.
I feel like that's a quote that should have been in our British Monarchs episode. That's probably said a lot.
It's in my head. Like in my head, I hear "Oh God, Daddy"
Like
every,
daily,
like fucking 20 minutes. Like, but I looked up the lyrics and they're pretty fucking interesting and like deep, and I didn't get them. So I dug a little deeper, and I found out that the song was about a book that she had read.
Okay.
I'll get there in just a second.
Okay.
The cloud bursting is not
okay.
Cloud bursting. But there's some pseudoscience attached to that story. But the thing that's really been like fucking in my craw lately is, you know, we've discussed before that being a couple of middle-aged men running a podcast and telling like dirty jokes kind of puts us in
and obscure histories where we try and unpack a lot of weird shit that's kind of been forgotten.
It puts us in a weird sphere of listening where we're like kind of lumped in, like, also recommended is fucking,
there are probably people who don't know us that wonder which end of like the conspiracy,
the weird alien lizard
fucking,
people, the moon's not real,
where we land
shit,
on that. And I'm not going to tell you which. I'm not going to tell you.
I'm going to tell you right now. We are not conspiracy assholes.
Not even a little.
Not even a little bit. I believe in science. That is not to say that I think that fucking all science is particularly accurate. I think that we're in a weird realm of learning about the universe where we're
going to talk about the scientific method a little bit here.
But the scientific method is very important. Recently, I shared this with Patrick. I caught a video of a guy wrapped in tinfoil that was fucking. I thought he was like a hot dog. I thought it was a hot dog.
Did you talk to me about this?
No, I sent it to you over
the telephone.
Yeah, the telephone device that we don't understand. But there's this guy, and he was pointing out different state capitol buildings.
Oh, that guy, yes.
And
the guy in the cat suit with the tinfoil hat.
Yeah, he was insisting
with like whiskers pointed.
He was insisting that there was no way that like early America built these buildings. If you ever see a state capitol building in the United States, it's a pretty standard 5-story like concrete or brick building with a dome.
Yeah, with big columns in the front and a dome on the top.
Big like Roman columns, stuff like that. And usually a dome, sometimes like a gold painted dome, oftentimes with like a figure of some historical note on the top, which is like fucking the shit you've seen in a million different Grecian whatevers.
Right.
They're all over big cities, all over the world.
Yeah.
But this guy was like, people living in pig shit could never have fucking built this in like fucking, what's the capital? Idaho. You're the geography guy.
Idaho?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I can't get Des Moines. That's Iowa. I can't get Des Moines out of my head.
Whatever.
Idaho, Boise.
Boise. So the guy's like, I've been to Boise.
I think it's
there's
Boise.
no way that in 1901, these guys living in pig shit made this big building. There had to be some sort of intervention. And he was saying that fucking aliens...
But he wasn't. He didn't even say there was any intervention. He was like, and people believe that people built these, and that's what his voice sounded like.
In the meantime,
like, people believe that people built these buildings. And by the way, he's dressed. He's got a fucking cat suit on with whiskers painted on his face and a pointy tinfoil hat on his head.
He did that shit that I fucking hate more than anything, where like, while they're saying stuff, they say it with this like, huh?
Yeah.
People believe
People think this? Okay. People think.
All right.
Yeah, sure. People did that.
Yeah, maybe cowboys built these buildings.
Oh my God.
And in the meantime, like Patrick and I both have backgrounds in construction, and I'm looking at it like, dude, like if I had a dedicated crew of 10 professionals and the right resources, I could build this fucking thing. Maybe not as well as it's constructed.
It's gonna fall down.
But I can build a fucking 5-story building if I have the right materials.
Right.
Like it's not. It's wood and steel and concrete. That's it.
By the way, if you look at this guy, do you think that he's got any?
No, he's never lifted.
He doesn't even know how
fucking,
his toilet works.
Not to be like, oh, I'm a tough guy. He's never even lifted a hammer. Like this guy has never thought about lifting.
But
a
also,
hammer.
if you're listening right now and you're offended that I said he doesn't even know how his toilet works, figure out how your toilet works. It's not that fucking complicated.
You lift the thing off the back and you push a thing and you're like, oh, it's like that. Cool. That's the craziest thing about working in like the home construction remodel stuff has always been that nobody knows what the fuck to do with any of this stuff.
And when you start learning things, you're like, oh, it was that easy?
Yeah, I'm
Holy shit.
I'm sympathetic to it because I didn't get into it until way later in my life.
Yeah.
But like, there's always just like, there's a hole in your roof.
Yeah.
I bet you if you get on the roof, you'll see a hole there. It's that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And this guy has no concept of like fucking making a boom or using a pulley for something,
no.
or like horses, or I don't know, slaves maybe.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, if I got about 200 slaves, I could build a building real fucking quick.
Yeah, you could build some pyramids even probably.
But there's a huge uptick in this kind of conspiracy bullshit lately, and it's been going on for a while, ever since forever.
It's been
people,
forever.
The lizard people thing is a big deal. The flat Earth deal, which isn't. Come on, guys.
It's been around forever. The problem is that the internet has created a platform for people to connect on these things. So where before you might just have one fucking kook in your town that believed in crazy shit, now that kook can, get with fucking thousands of other kooks all around the country, and then they have their own little fucking kook forum. And
yeah, you used to have a bunker and a bunch of racists to have like a secret meeting place where you gave fucking weird government theories, or a magazine or something.
Yeah, right. No shit.
But it's come to a fever pitch lately, and it's making me fucking crazy.
Feels like it. Yeah,
it's making me goddamn insane. So I thought it'd be nice if we start looking at people that were wrong about science, but gave it a decent shot. Used a little bit of investigation, because it's okay to be wrong.
Oh, I don't know that. I think that one of the things that I talk about here definitely does that. The other thing that I talk about here definitely does not. So.
Well, where this comes from is, to get back to my Kate Bush story, the song Cloudbursting is based around a book called A Book of Dreams by Peter Reich. Peter Reich was the son of
the Third Reich.
Spelled the same, Reich.
Okay.
But he's the son of.
We were just making Third Reich jokes before we started recording, so that's why. I don't know why. That's just a weird coincidence. Wait, there are no coincidences.
I still really like probably my favorite joke from the Tim Valley interview episode was ska Nazis.
Oh God, ska Nazis.
Third wave ska Nazis.
Listening to Less Than Jake and skanking.
They're the ones that say when the Third Reich toppled, pick it up.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Fucking good joke.
That was a good joke.
But so anyway, so this book that Kate Bush read that affected her deeply, that she decided to write this song about, was a book called A Book of Dreams by Peter Reich. Peter Reich was the son of an Austrian doctor of medicine and psychoanalyst named Wilhelm Reich.
Oh.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, right.
Oh.
One thing I think we can say is that this guy is not a Nazi. He's not that kind of guy.
Okay.
There's some Nazi pseudoscience we could get into, but that's a whole nother rant.
We're gonna
do some Nazi shit?
A little bit.
Okay, cool, because I got something for their fucking ass.
A little bit. My main topic tonight is gets into some neo-Nazism.
Oh, okay. So you're not going to talk like Mengele?
No. We're not going with. But this is actually almost contemporary. It's like within the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah. If you guys don't know Josef Mengele, keep not knowing that.
Yeah.
Don't Google it.
I feel like, so here's the thing so let's go ahead and jump in, because for one, I feel like this is the sort of topic that's definitely going to end up being a series. We're going to do.
Yeah, there's no way that we're going to do
many of these.
Pseudoscience is fucking everywhere.
It really is. So just to give you guys, for those of you who have no fucking idea, hopefully not too many of you have no idea what we're talking about, but pseudoscience is just any statement, belief, practice that can be, that claim to be scientific and or factual, but they're not compatible with the scientific method, right? So the scientific method, anybody who's ever been in the fucking science fair as a kid, which I was, you learn that's basically the whole what's the word I'm looking for?
It's the whole baloney. That's an investigative technique. It's Detective 101 for science.
The scientific method is the one rule you have to adhere to when you are doing when you're in a science fair, whatever it is that you want to do your science fair on, whether it's, physics related or botany related or whatever you want, it's all got to adhere to the scientific method. So that being that you create a hypothesis, and then through inductive reasoning, through testing, through experiments, statistical analysis, you either prove that your theory is correct, Or, more often than not, your hypothesis is incorrect, at which point you have to adjust it or just toss it completely and start from scratch, right? That's the scientific method. That's how we figure out if we actually get a consensus that, hey, this thing that I think is the reason why this other thing is happening is correct or not.
You start with an idea. You're like, that makes sense to me. Then you use a hypothesis, which is an educated guess, essentially. And from there, you gather evidence.
Right.
And then you take it, you experiment with it. And once you have like definitive proof,
Right.
then you can take it to be looked at by other people.
Right.
Until then, you're kind of just a dumb asshole.
So, but to your point,
Talking to you, fucking state capitol guy.
to your point earlier,
This fucking guy, he pulled out all the state capitals. He looked at a map and
he's like, they're all in a straight line.
They're all in a straight line. Look at all these ones. These ones are in a straight line. We're not going to talk about that.
They weren't
We're
even
not
in a
talk
straight
about
line.
that. No, it's a fucking grid. Like, it's a map.
Yeah.
There's 50 of them. Of course, a few of them are going to go in a fucking straight line.
And they're all like in the Northeast.
Guy's a piece of shit.
So to your point earlier, it is difficult not to wade into sort of the ocean of conspiracy theories when you start talking about a lot of these pseudoscience movements, because we've had so many, we've had doomsday prophecies based on pseudoscience. We've had explanations on how ancient civilizations developed based on pseudoscience. We've had theories about life on other planets. And, all of these things come out of pseudoscience. Cryptids. Yeah. Cryptids is one of our more popular topics on this
like
podcast.
a pseudoscience based in biology.
Right. So I think we both agreed to sort of focus on like the psychology, like the medical end of pseudoscience for this particular episode, at least. And we could I think we're going to do conspiracy theories at some point. And
so many fun, but yeah.
And we can even tie
just
those
gonna
in.
Make fun of them. And
Yeah,
actually,
100%.
I want to be kind of clear. There are absolutely conspiracies out there. Like, I'm not saying there's no like the fucking JFK assassinations shit. Like, when people plan to do something subversively, that's called a conspiracy.
Right.
That those exist.
Yeah.
But not
And
every...
you can have a theory about it, but the theory has to have at least some arguable amount of, hey, look, that it has to pass the fucking litmus test of even being fucking possible.
Tom Hanks eats babies is kind of a fucking it's a bridge too far, I think. For one, the guy's in 4 movies a year.
Yeah.
When does he have time to eat these babies?
They bring him straight to his trailer on set, baby.
2, cui bono, who benefits?
You're right. That's a big one. That's frequently like when people start espousing these fucking crazy fucking conspiracy theories at me, I'm like, to what end?
For why?
Are people gonna go to the ends of the earth to accomplish this? For who? For what? To go, haha, we fooled everybody. And then what? That's it. It's a good prank, bro.
They're eating babies
Sick prank.
because the babies they're onto them.
I mean, they smell delicious. You ever smell a little baby's head? They smell wonderful.
I was over at Jake's birthday yesterday, and I was holding his big ass baby, 30-pound, like fucking 9-month-old or whatever, biggest head you ever saw.
Yeah,
that baby was great, but it smelled great.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, we're gonna focus more on the psychology, on the medical end of the pseudoscience stuff for this episode, and we'll do conspiracies later, and we can tie them in on a different episode. Yeah. But pretty much every conspiracy theory comes out of pseudoscience, right? Like, you can't present a flat earth theory without fudging actual scientific facts.
Well, this is actually very, very prescient for talking about this character, Wilhelm Reich. Okay. So Wilhelm Reich was a part of like the second wave of psychoanalysts after Sigmund Freud. Mm-hmm. If you guys aren't familiar with Sigmund Freud, he essentially established a structure.
The father of psychoanalysis.
Yeah, he established a structure where he could
which has
analyze your
psycho and anal in them.
Yes,
all in one word.
And that's not a coincidence.
And he would probably have some things to say about that.
Yeah.
And his mother.
But psychoanalysis and like dream analysis were his big deals, and it was like figuring out what somebody's trauma and their problems are based on their behavior, their actions, and then their dreams. Mm-hmm. Freud specifically would like read whatever you dreamt and be like, well, this is.
But he would almost always attach some psychosexual shit to it.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, he's
a very repressed guy.
He's like, yes, you climbed a tree. That was your father's penis. I can't do a German or a Viennese accent. That was your father's penis. In the meantime, he's
You were clearly climbing your father's penis.
he's fucking chomping cigars all day long. And
Yeah.
it's like Freud's big quote is like, "Hey, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar."
Just
yeah, whatever.
doing massive amounts of cocaine.
So much cocaine. But he actually interesting. This branch of science could be sort of considered a pseudoscience as well, except like the results have been proven so often. Psychoanalysis doesn't always pan out.
Right.
you know? Specifically dream analysis. Famously, Freud separated from his partnership with Carl Jung, another really brilliant psychoanalyst.
Spelled with a J, not a Y.
Carl Jung. But they separated because Carl was telling him a dream that he had about like two trains in the Alps. And Freud was like, "Oh yeah, so I am the rusty old bullshit train, and you are the young slick train, which is also your father's penis. Get out of here."
Yeah. And then let me guess, they went into the tunnel, and then they came out, and then they went back in, and then they came out,
Yeah,
and then back in and out, and in and out, and then suddenly, boosh, diesel everywhere.
But legitimately, Freud was like, "This dream is about like it's like two trains racing and one's overcoming the other," and Freud has this take on it that's like, well, you're obviously saying that in your brain you believe that you are the young virile train overtaking the old train and I'm the old train,
Right.
so you consider your science superior to mine.
Carl Jung's like, it's a fucking dream, dude.
But yeah, except Carl Jung's like his student, so he's like, ah, shit, that probably is exactly what the fuck that dream's about. Fuck me. But
Also, who dreams about two trains just going down? Is that how fucking boring the fucking
old bluesmen? I don't know. Like, yeah, two trains.
fucking hobos? I got my bindle. I got my can of beans. Shit, which one do I get on?
Reframe that conversation with two hobos fucking at a fire in a train yard. He's like, "Oh, so I'm an old broke down train, and you're having a good yeah."
Oh my god.
But so yeah, Freud is like the father of all that shit. Essentially, with don't at me because there's obviously a million different facets. This is a massive psychological and scientific movement. But Wilhelm Reich came in on the second wave of that.
Okay.
And so Wilhelm Reich came in at the end of the 1800s. He was born in 1897, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So by the time he was about 18, 19, he was already working in the field of psychoanalysis under Freud. Because, I mean, at this time, Freud's work is published. It's very famous, and people are fucking gonzo
Oh, yeah,
for it.
yeah. It was like
it's
cutting
the
edge
shit that's
fucking,
everywhere,
yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I can't believe that fucking dreams will tell me what my problems are. I didn't know I wanted to fuck my mom.
I can't believe I've always wanted to fuck my mom and kill my dad.
God
I
damn.
never even thought about it before.
But now
Dr. Freud
it
told me.
makes so much
But now
sense.
it's all I can think about.
And mama. But anyway, Wright comes in and he's very straightforward but excels. Like he's highly regarded. He's a doctor of medicine. He's the author of several influential books. He wrote a book called The Impulsive Character that was about essentially your physical movements are manifestations of your internal logic.
Interesting.
If you've been beaten for running too fast, or then you're gonna go slow. It's that kind of thing. Like
weird.
When you were a kid, your conditioning affects the way that you physically move and behave and act. Soft-spoken people probably reprimanded for speaking out of turn enough times, and it sort of becomes this sort of like training thing.
There is some. I mean, I don't know.
It's not bad. It's not a bad theory. I'm sure it applies in most senses.
You look at the statistics of people who were raised in abusive families that end up being abusive.
Yeah, exactly, and that's he was kind of on the cutting edge of that.
There's clearly a correlation.
Yeah, exactly, and that was Reich's big revelatory thing was that there were correlations between the outside forces on your body that affected your psyche.
Okay.
Whereas Sigmund Freud is like everything is processed in your head, like a fucking computer.
Right.
Everything's processed in your head, so everything works in there.
Right.
Wilhelm Reich was like, no, you've got a body too.
And also, you just want to fuck your mom.
And also, I mean, who doesn't, right? Hi, mom. So, but Reich is like, well, you've got a physical body, and your brain is made of the physical body. So the way that your brain works has to be affected by what's going on with your fucking vehicle.
No, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. He also wrote a book called The Function of the Orgasm because he's a big he's a big cum guy.
These guys, these guys were so sexually repressed. It's fucking hysterical.
Well, that's the thing, because Wilhelm Reich was.
But you look at the time. You look at the time. Also, it was in
very
Europe,
oppressive society. Yeah,
in Europe and America, that was very much like
very buttoned down, very straightforward.
sex
Like,
bad.
You're engaged by 10.
Right.
Yeah. You sex one person. And if you don't, you're a degenerate.
Right. Exactly.
But Wilhelm Reich is thought of as the father of the sexual revolution.
Good for him.
That's specifically his title. Like,
Well, then I am a big fan right out the gates.
because his thing was.
Thank you, Wilhelm.
His theory on the function of the orgasm was that orgasmic energy, or the energy that people use
is cool
to orgasm with, is like the last step of your energy. So the rest, like eating food, is like the first step.
Right.
And by the time you come, that's like the end result of the energy, because you're also,
time to go to sleep. You hear that, ladies? Do you hear that, ladies? When he goes to bed afterward, it's just science, baby.
But you're expending energy to, or once you eat, you're already expending the energy to chew, and then to think about your next objective, the next thing, to go to work, to wear clothes, to do all this. Like coming is the last thing that, like,
not thinking about coming though.
So his theory is that you, like, the result, your orgasm is reflective of your mental state.
Okay.
Like, if you're having healthy, like, strong peak orgasms, then your brain's probably working okay.
Okay.
Right? And if you're like really, think about it.
If you're having a bad day, it's
you ever
just like,
you ever pull a bad round in bed because you just had too much shit going on in your brain? Like,
no, but I'm very good at compartmentalizing, so I'm really good at compartmentalizing.
It happens, it's
once it's bedroom time, that's all everything else is just back burner.
And of course, even though this is like a well-respected scientist, immediately people are like, oh, so he's probably not coming so good. Like, that's like...
I just imagine a bunch of people in like capes and top hats and canes and like, oh, he must not be coming very well.
Perhaps his virility is in question. But like, that's a huge...
His spooge demon is clearly on the mend.
If you think about like what it takes to put out weird theories like that, like, you're really fucking putting yourself out there.
Yeah, you got to be in your head about some shit.
Yeah,
for sure.
you fucking for real. Well, first you're thinking about it,
right?
But two, like, he's a scientist, so he's observing people with depression like come. I'm not even joking. Like, he would witness like psych patients masturbate. And you got to think, the first function of
faster, come for me now.
No, it's more like, yes,
No, I want that fucking German veracity to just to come through. You will come quickly.
But no, okay,
show me your orgasm.
But the first function of a vibrator, like when they invented the vibrator, you know what the function was?
No,
it's to cure hysteria in women.
Oh yeah,
because part of this, like, not just him writing, but there was like a field of study around the orgasm that was like,
survey says debunked as pseudoscience. I've met William. I've met women with so many vibrators, and they just still seem to have bad days. So I'm gonna call bullshit on that one.
Okay,
whole wall of vibrators, just
like mounted on a wall. Like,
that would be cool.
I immediately pictured like round, like, glass cases. It's like a Batman's lair. You get the giant penny and the costumes, but it's vibrators.
I love that we're just kind of grazing pseudoscience.
I haven't even started with this fucking.
Yeah, we're trying to get in there.
I want to make the point that this is somebody who deeply believed that he had,
is this your guy? Is this your?
This is my guy. Yeah.
Okay.
This is somebody who deeply believed that he had a scientific principle that no one was using, that was accurate and actually could help people.
Okay.
And he was well aware that it quickly made him a laughingstock.
The vibrator.
No, not the vibrator. He wasn't the vibrator.
Okay.
Somebody else did the vibrator.
Okay.
No, but just the theory that your orgasm was indicative of your mental state.
You want to come good, you better.
Right. Orgasmic energy. Orgasmic energy is like his whole thing. He wasn't the only thing he wrote. He also wrote a book called The Mass Psychology of Fascists. As a reaction to watching like the National Socialist Party in Germany rise. And it's like massively.
You could just call them the Nazi Party.
Yeah, the Nazi Party. Yeah. Sorry, I'm all in science. I'm being Mr. Smart.
Well, because anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want the
the
socialist
tie-in
thing
with the
that doesn't
socialists.
really tie in.
They weren't really socialists.
Yeah, that doesn't tie in modern socialism.
But he was,
that.
not a fan of fucking fascism, and at the same time, he was like a stalwart thinker of like your actions affect your psyche.
Okay.
So he was like
Fair.
his big stand in the psychology of fascism, and the mass psychology of fascism is a book that was used in like student revolts in Paris and stuff in the 1920s and 30s, and like. Yeah, this is like his face would be fucking spray painted on shit, and the books would be thrown at cops when people were like fascists,
Yeah.
But his thought was it wasn't Hitler's fault that all these people did this; it was their fault that people were so easily led in a hive mind,
Manipulated, yeah.
and so easily manipulated. But he also was like, your physical body is also something. It's not just your brain. You don't have to fall for stuff. If people are marching one way, you can physically turn and not do that. So like it was very, what's the word I'm looking for?
But that also takes a brain to go, hey, this isn't probably the very cool thing to do.
Exactly.
I should probably turn around.
But that was his more of his political period, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And in amongst all that, he was working on a couple of other like really fucking brilliant ideas, like vegetatherapy.
Does this tie into flat Earth? Because you hopped right in after I said something about flat Earth.
No.
Oh, okay. I was just saying you got to massively fuck up the scientific method and scientific facts. To
No. So,
here are the facts about why the Earth is flat.
We get into his later life. Things start going sideways.
He goes. Does he go kooky?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It's very interesting. Very pseudoscience.
Okay.
So this is a brilliant guy.
Okay.
He comes with vegetatherapy, which is very strongly linked into like you familiar with like yogi breathing, not Yogi Bear.
Yogic breathing.
Yeah, so like you got your different compartments, your chakras, right?
Yeah.
He had this idea that you could breathe with your body instead of just your lungs.
Okay.
Which is, true.
Does it have anything to do with vegetables, or does that just...
No, you enter a vegetative state,
and
you let your body just do its own thing and release these like parts he'd call body armor, which are essentially areas of tension in your body that are holding you back from like emotion, essentially.
Okay.
My shoulder fucking hurts.
This episode, by the way, brought to you by Body Armor. If you're thirsty and you need one of those things to wrap your elbow for some fucking reason.
You're not supposed to say it. I was dropping it quietly into the... No, but like I've got my shoulders hurt, right? I know that my shoulders hurt.
Right.
And I'm going to be thinking about that instead of thinking about enlightenment or processing trauma from when I was a kid,
Okay.
Yeah, it's like that's his theory. And it's pretty fascinating to watch. Like I watched videos of people doing this like breathing exercise. And it's like using your diaphragm to like extend your stomach to pull air into your lungs instead of just your basic breathing.
Okay.
So it becomes more of like an open, like your body becomes like an open room, essentially, like with windows open instead of just sucking air in and pushing it back out.
Interesting.
Because he wanted to bypass the function of your brain that's like breathe,
Okay.
Yeah, so it's interesting. And
sounds fucking weird.
It's weird, but if you look into it, it's all based in science. Like it's science stuff. Nothing too wacky about it. But then like so he
breathing deeply and quietly does calm you down.
Yeah, and then also masturbating in front of a therapist.
and then you have a good cum and then you fall asleep.
But this kind of stuff is all like it's to bring you back to like some baser organism. Rather than just being I'm human all the time.
Right.
You can just be
a protozoa.
You can exist. You can exist in a state of like.
I just want to be an amoeba now.
You can exist in a vegetable state where you're not, and your brain will then start to work on shit because it's not focusing on all these other.
All right.
There's a very
I'm
similar.
no longer a human. I'm a rutabaga.
I am a meat popsicle. But it's very similar to like primal scream therapy. If you ever,
I have seen that too.
Yeah,
it's
so like
fucking hysterical.
It's hysterical. John Lennon was a big primal scream therapy.
Oh god, of course.
Listen to the song "Mother." That's
fucking stupid idiot he was.
He was a dumb asshole. But that song's really good. But primal scream therapy is just like unleashing all of your emotions at once in these epic screams to bring yourself to a more animalistic state.
Sure.
All right. So all this aside, Wilhelm Reich is very well respected. He is like a tenured professor. He's got books. He's well regarded all around. he brings his orgasm theories to Freud, who he massively respected. This is like his
Oh, God.
best teacher. And Freud,
That guy just ran with it, I bet.
no,
No?
no, Freud was like essentially he's just like other things than coming.
How badly do you want to
This
fuck
is-
your father?
Wilhelm, maybe.
Wilhelm, perhaps you should touch your father's butthole.
But Freud was just like, hey man, listen. He called this his hobby horse. Like he said this is Wilhelm's hobby horse.
Okay.
He's like, I am stoked that you are so all about cum. That's great. But you got to remember also, like,
I'm just envisioning like every fucking photo I've ever seen of Sigmund Freud and imagining him saying, I'm glad that you're so stoked about cum. Bro. I'm so glad. Yeah.
I love that you like cum so much. That's an impersonation I've never expected to do.
Sigmund Freud fucking hoofing a line and
talking
chewing on a
about cum.
cigar and talking about being stoked about cum.
Oh, I'm so stoked that you love cum so much, buddy. But
That's a new character for us.
just Sigmund Freud just saying anything is just yes. Now talk about the penis. But so he says to Wilhelm essentially like, listen, this is a good hobby. I get it, but you're a man of science. You've got real responsibilities. You can't just focus on this. This isn't science. This is just bullshit.
Right.
It's everyone comes. Wilhelm kind of like takes that as like, oh, so I got to make it like a science then, right?
Okay.
This is where things start to get a little weird. So in the late 30s, he started working with like biological standards and started looking through microscopes and looking at bacteria and trying to find like a link essentially between people's energy and the energy of like small plants, protozoa, things like that. He called it bion. Right?
Okay.
So he claimed to have seen particles of light passing between different organisms.
Okay.
He called it bion.
I thought you were going to say orgasms.
Between this guy's jerking it, that guy's jerking it. They shoot, and if you hit it with a black light, I'm telling you, it's science. But he claimed with the backing of several other scientists that he had discovered something called bion, which was an energy that existed in things but was transferable.
Okay.
He described it as like balls of blue light, essentially, through a microscope.
Okay.
And everyone in science at the same time collectively in Europe went, is this the cum guy? and like, dude, he got indicted hard by like the scientific community. They're like, dude, you're a fucking psychoanalyst. You've never looked through a microscope. Why are you looking through a microscope now and you're discovering things that nobody
else,
fucking like biologists and shit have discovered
Right.
in 10,000 years? Like,
Sure.
what are you talking about? And he's just like, I'm telling you, it's fucking cum energy. It's like all over the place. But he's steadfast about it, right? So
all these organisms, they're just coming on each other. Just look.
So to I guess speed a little bit, he's got that idea, and he comes up with this kind of unifying theory of energy that he calls orgone.
Okay.
Right? So orgone energy, he says, it's a combination of the words organism and orgasm.
Oh,
Orgone.
yay.
Orgasmus.
So when you texted me that you were going to do orgone energy, I thought you just misspelled organ.
Yeah, organ energy. You know how like you need.
We're talking about pseudoscience. I don't fucking, you know what I mean? Like,
It's one specific organ, if you know what I'm saying.
okay, so tell me about orgone.
So he's linking his theories around the physical manifestation of trauma, the energy that you need to eat and then turn it into cum, and then and now his whatever this biology thing is that he's claiming that this is what he found. He's like, this is science. I fucking saw it.
Do you know I'll never be able to eat again without thinking to myself, just making cum.
Just making cum,
Just
baby.
making lots of cum.
How many times have we said cum now?
So many times.
Well, we've been on the air for 8 minutes. But like, so he essentially, it seemed to everyone in the scientific community that in order to make this seem like science, he had just used a microscope on something and
Right.
was like, science. So he was like blacklisted. He was like, he wasn't allowed in fucking scientific conferences.
Okay.
He was like kicked out of his position at like Austria University or some shit.
Jesus.
They were like, fucking no, guy. All right. Now it's too much. But in the meantime, he's so heavily influential to like culture that this gets a lot of people like, oh yeah, no, definitely, yeah, Orgone, fuck yeah, Orgone energy, you got it, love it.
I've been coming on everything.
So he has like not a cult essentially. You
Sure,
could say he's got
right.
like a cult of personality built around him.
Listen, so many of these guys have weird cults.
Right. And
so
then-
many of these pseudoscientific, especially the ones that gain some traction.
Oh, for sure.
100%
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
time.
So as World War II ramps up, he is like invited to be a professor at the New School in New York City.
Okay.
And that's where his European tenure ends, and he moves over to America. And this is where things get real fucking weird.
Okay.
Okay? Because he's promoting Orgone energy. And America at the time, super into weird shit. They're like, oh, that seems fucking weird. Cool. Yeah. Like we're going to the moon in a few years and shit. Like,
Sure, yeah,
we
let's
got
do it.
we got factories and shit. We're gonna be Hitler. Cool.
Yeah.
Atomic bomb. What's this Orgone thing? And he's saying that it's an omnipresent energy that you can use it to heal cancers. You can use it to dispel bad auras. You can fucking use it to keep yourself alive, like meditative energy. Like
Right.
a
You
monk,
can go in
know?
a park and do Reiki, and that's
Exactly. Yeah. Because he obviously has with like the yogi breathing exercises and stuff. He's got like a Far East sort of influence.
okay.
I know this is a lot of just bullshit, but bear with me here.
I'm
I'm getting to Kate Bush.
still here. Oh, this is still Kate Bush?
Oh, this is this
Holy
is
shit.
the book.
Ladies and gentlemen, our episode hasn't even started yet.
So he moves to New York,
Okay.
right? He starts doing these experiments with Orgone,
Okay.
right? He starts making these Orgone collectors out of like sort of rigged. They're called Faraday cages. Faraday cages.
Okay, yeah.
You familiar? Yeah. So it's
Yes.
like Faraday cages is essentially it's a fucking cage, but it's covered with like an insulating lining
Right.
so that electrical waves and stuff can't pass through. It's
Right.
often used for people who have like headaches or have like that high perception of radio waves, stuff like that. It's a dampening cloth that you put over a cage. And they
Also
fucking-
frequently used as a terrible story driver in the television show Lost.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, fucking lost. So he like takes these and rigs them up, and he's like, "Well, these are now Orgone collectors,
Oh.
right? You fucking,
Just like
If
that.
you've got cancer, you get in one of these,
Oh my
and then bing bang
God.
boom,
Stop.
no cancer, right?
Okay, great.
Yeah, right. And this is where things make you think, like, okay, Wilhelm Reich is a fucking he's a quack. 2, he's a fraud. Right?
Yeah, I would
Because the idea that you can put somebody in something that's just going the fucking air energy, the sex cum energy in the air is gonna fucking. He took one of these Orgone collectors.
quick, get in here. I promise you, cancer gone, coming so good. You're gonna come
Get in
like you've never
here,
come before.
breathe with your balls, and then come, and you'll no longer have cancer.
Where's your cancer? In the pancreas? Breathe with your pancreas. Also, come with your pancreas.
This kind of thing is like so close to like Christian Science, like
Oh,
medicine.
God.
You just come in with the Bible and you're like, get out, pancreas. Hit him with the pancreas of the Bible.
Oh my god.
Praise Jesus. He takes one of these things to fucking Einstein. He's not fucking around. He literally.
wow, are you serious?
He takes a Faraday cage to Albert fucking Einstein. He sits with him for 10 hours.
Uh-huh.
Einstein goes, huh. All right.
Uh-huh.
Sounds cool. Why don't you leave me one of these things? So he leaves him a Faraday cage.
Okay.
They correspond for a while.
Uh-huh.
Einstein's testing this thing. I was like, I've been running a lot of tests on this.
Yeah,
It
no.
seems like a bird cage with a blanket on. and Reich's like, no,
Are
dude.
these
don't you-"
even real
He's like,
wires?
don't you realize even with no biological entity in there, the temperature changes because the Orgone's accumulating. And Albert does this test. He's like, okay, let me check this out. And he like
Jesus.
essentially runs a thermometer from the bottom of the cage to the top. And he's
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, it's colder at the bottom, hotter at the top because of,
Thermodynamics.
yeah, exactly. And then he essentially says, hey, Willie, don't fucking contact me anymore. Like Albert Einstein
Oh,
says,
shit.
he's like, I consider our correspondence closed. Like, we're
Kibosh
done.
on that, huh? Ghosted.
Right. So Reich is on a downslope at this point. He's teaching at the new school, but he's also running some questionable exercises with like children. He's like, before kids, he's saying like before kids are traumatized, they can engage in like the
you better not say the word "cum."
But before kids are traumatized, they should engage in like his vegetotherapy, learning how to breathe,
okay.
but
Thank
like
God, Jesus.
But this includes like
I thought this was gonna go to a
like
dark place.
the kids that grew up after like having been exposed to some of these experiments. Like, yeah, they'd have us get naked on a table.
Oh no,
and like every like fourth one is like, yeah, and then a fucking like doctor molested me.
Oh God damn it! It went to a dark place.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Shit.
Again, this isn't something that Wilhelm Reich was doing. He was trying to run an institute, but it just so happened he was getting
In
people,
what year was this? In the early
at this
1900s?
point now we're going into the late 40s, early 50s.
Okay, so I mean, any institution that had mentally handicapped people, mentally ill people, or children,
Massive amounts of abuse.
rampant with both physical and fucking sexual abuse, and probably a lot of psychological abuse as well.
I mean, this is around the time.
Just abuse. Just run the whole gamut of abuse.
This is around the time where lobotomies were all over the place. You know, like somebody who was thought of themselves as an open-minded modern American that like respected science would probably not think twice about like, yeah, why don't you like get your kid naked and lay him on this table and have them writhe in unusual ways in front of strangers.
God almighty.
You know? But yeah, again, like the people that like came out of that was like,
your wife, she's hysterical because of your ovaries, you see?
Yeah, fucking
We got to lobotomize
We got to
her.
poke her in the brain with a stick.
We just take out a section of the brain and then she's fine. She's docile. It's fine. Everything's good. Right? Fucking insanity.
We can talk about lobotomy sometime. There's a whole fucking story there. That shit's horrifying. If you don't know what a frontal orbital lobotomy is, don't Google it.
Yeah, it's not cool.
Hey, you know, as Tom Waits once said, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
Now say it in Tom Waits' voice.
Hold on.
I'd
rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
I'd rather.
Who's in the 1,000 lobotomy?
Oh God!
I have a great Tom Waits.
So over
Tom Waits is probably my best.
Okay, that's way too much Tom Waits.
Anyway,
it wasn't even any Tom Waits, and it was too much. Tom Waits.
That was actually from a real song.
Was it really?
Zubazi Zubazai.
God almighty.
That's Jitterbug Boy from
Jesus
Small
Christ.
Change. So
I've
like
given up on life.
he like the fucking rumors of like impropriety, especially regarding children, and him doing unsanctioned medical expertise.
Whoa,
and
you don't say. That
all
came
this
out?
stuff. Yeah.
That kind of
Well, because he wasn't
Did
hiding
that
it.
sink him?
He wasn't hiding it. He's like, what do you mean? I'm a doctor. I'm a medical doctor and a psychoanalyst doing therapy on children.
Oh my God. Right. That's even worse
Well,
somehow?
He's not.
That's worse.
He's not like, I'm molesting children. He does not. He's fucking blind-eyed to this because at this point, he's thinking of Orgone so hard that that's his whole concept. He gets kicked out of the new school.
Okay.
For having a bunch of crackpot theories. He gets like sanctioned by the FDA.
Good.
They're like, hey, buddy, this isn't medicine. You gotta stop with all this shit.
Yeah.
He ends up, now this is where the story like rounds out. Okay. He ends up buying property in Maine.
He becomes a record producer, and Kate
he
Bush
signs
comes
Kate
to his
Bush,
studio.
yeah. No, he buys property in Maine with the help of one of his many admirers.
Oh boy.
So he essentially borrows money. He's not making any money. He's hemorrhaging fucking money.
Sure.
You ever see The Master with Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman?
I don't think so.
It's
Is that the like orchestra?
It's Paul Thomas Anderson's movie, The Master, won a bunch of Oscars. Friend of the podcast, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Okay.
But it's essentially, that movie is about like a waning brilliant scientist.
Didn't I talk shit to Paul Thomas Anderson? Told him to get his ass on the podcast.
I would love to have him on the podcast. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I'm referencing him in this work. And the movie has definitely some ties to this exact thing, because you've got like somebody who was formerly very, very brilliant and well respected in the waning years of his science, and still gaining followers, but it's like, you're the last people on a sinking ship.
Right.
So he starts making these things on his compound in Maine, which he calls Orgone.
Oh, Jesus.
Right, which is referenced in like journals as like he's building a town that runs on this. But he's really like, he's got like a laboratory and a house and like a couple of like some helpers,
Sure.
So it's not a town, it's a compound.
Yeah, just let it die, dude.
Yeah. So he starts building these things called cloudbursters.
Okay.
Which are crazy looking devices with like rocket looking pokers on them.
Uh-huh.
And his thing is he runs like cables from these poker things and puts them into water like a lake.
Okay.
And the organic energy, the orgone, gathers in them, and then during a drought, you can point them at a cloud and it'll make it rain.
Of course it will.
Yeah, of course. He does all these experiments with his young son, Peter Reich.
Okay.
Right? Who has never claimed to be abused in any way.
Okay.
In his book that he writes later, A Book of Dreams, he actually has very, very fond memories of this period. He describes his father as utterly sincere, not in any way trying to scam anyone or get money for something unworthy, as somebody who has a brilliant mind and
he's just a dreamer, man.
He's actively working towards making the world a better place.
Okay. I mean, cool.
But he's fucking nuts.
Right. That's the thing is there comes a time when it's just like, hey, maybe just let this one die.
Yeah, as time goes on,
go back to talking about cum.
He starts claiming he's seeing fucking aliens and shit
in
the skies over his compound. The cloudburster, one experiment by local farmers in Maine. There was a drought.
Okay.
They were like, hey, if you can make it rain on our farm, we'll pay you for it.
Sure.
And he did.
It rained?
He fucking pointed his thing, some clouds over the farm.
Stop.
By the end of the day, it was raining. That's a fucking...
documented fact.
That's a documented fact that happened. There is no documentation that it's a result of Orgone or Orgone
by the end of
releasing.
the day, not immediately.
No, not immediately. It's a slow working process. It's in a lake. What we expect fucking just laser bolts to shoot out of this lake up the cables and then pow into the cloud. Just
yes, immediate results is what I was looking for.
So
because listen, because if I'm pointing a thing that's got some cables that go into a lake at a cloud and then I put it down and I go, okay, it'll rain eventually, then
right.
You know what I mean?
So it'll rain eventually, I'm telling you.
The next time you get rain, it's because of me.
But you got to figure this guy's ego is so huge that starting from people don't think that cum's important. He's like he's so cocky, no pun intended, that he's like, I am right. These people are wrong, and I'm proving it again and again. I'm always right.
Right.
He had delusions of grandeur. He's like the president backs me and stuff. And on his compound, kinda. FDA said, hey, get the fuck out of here with this. Stop using the orgone therapy thing on people. It's not working. It's pseudoscience. It's hurting people. You're insane.
Sure.
And he's like, okay, but I've got my own compound. I can do that. They're like, we don't care.
Keep
Bring
it over
your
there.
fucking nuts and your groupies out there and fucking whatever you need to do. I don't give a shit. Kill yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Just stay out of Malibu. Get the fuck out of here. So he's doing these experiments and stuff, and his son Peter Reich is with him the whole time. We're talking like a 7-year-old to 11-year-old kid. Just living in this magical world to him. He's like, seriously, he's living in the beautiful, pristine Maine woods, discovering science that's never been discovered. His father's like, we're going to change the world and we're going to help people with this. And just essentially
spooging his orgone onto everything.
Just think he's teaching him how to breathe in an enlightened way and shit, and like teaching him all about psychology and all this, and fucking he's literally seeing the fucking cloudburster work. He's like, I fucking watched it. The guy, it rained.
Right.
So
but that's okay.
When one of Reich's followers distributed parts of a cloudburster over the mail, the FDA was like, take him. No, yeah, you can't fucking, no distributing. So they arrest him, right? And they arrest him and they put him in fucking jail. They make the people in Orgone, including Peter Reich, break the fucking cloudbursters apart with axes, smashes them. They take 6 tons of literature, including the works of Wilhelm Reich, and burn it.
Well,
and
that seems like an overreaction.
They make the fucking, his son and his Orgone workers put the fucking books in the incinerator, because they're like, we're not touching this shit. No, you do it.
Yeah.
So
probably got cum on it.
Just think of this kid. His father's just been arrested by some mysterious dark government entity, and in the meantime, he's like, we're fighting aliens. What are you talking about? and then he has to break apart these magical devices, and then he has to burn the books. and then
that'll change a guy.
9 months later, Wilhelm Reich dies in prison.
Okay.
So as Peter Reich grows up, he comes to terms with all this, and he's like, all right, maybe he was a fucking nut. Maybe he was a nut, but I don't think he's trying to hurt anybody. Okay. And he writes this book called The Book of Dreams, which he describes growing up with all of these feelings and this experience and this weirdness. And he comes out with a quote that's like, my father was like an 18th century scientist living in the 19th century. That's all that was.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Kate Bush reads his book, writes the song, and that brings me to driving in my car going, "Oh God, Daddy." One last thing that I did want to say, actually, is that after Wilhelm Reich died, after they burned all of his shit, people around the world were like, well, yeah, fucking Cum Master over there was a real quack. We all knew that. But there were some scientists that were like, okay, yeah, great. Maybe he was fucking nuts. You didn't think he was fucking nuts the first time when he became a highly well-respected doctor and theologian. They didn't think he was fucking nuts during the student revolts in Paris. They didn't think he was fucking nuts when people were like using his work to fuel the sexual revolution.
Right.
You only think he's fucking nuts now that he's like persona non grata.
Right.
So as far as pseudoscience is concerned, I think there's definitely investigation that's worthwhile.
There was a fall
into
from
things.
grace.
Yeah.
I
There's
think
a fall from grace, 100%.
What we would consider that.
When I was living in New York City, I went to the Brooklyn, the Kings County Hospital one time. I had some awful sickness. If you live in New York long enough, you get the sick. It's like so many things from so many countries.
Too many people.
Yeah, so many things from so many countries.
Too many people in a very small area.
I was wiped out. I was so bad, and I was just like a student. So I went to the hospital, and my doctor was like a chubby little Indian guy, and he's just like, "Yeah, you'll be fine. You just drink water." And I was like, "Oh, I've been drinking water." He goes, "Yeah, because your body will tell you how to heal. People don't like to talk about that."
Oh.
And he told me a story about how one of his mentors had worked with Sharon Stone when Sharon Stone had got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Okay.
And his mentor and a few other people had come out with a cure for her breast cancer, like cured her, like cleaned her up.
Okay.
Right? And Sharon Stone came out and she was like, "Yeah, I had cancer, now I don't." And the entire medical community blacklisted all the doctors that worked with her. And he's like, "Isn't that fascinating that they would rather turn on their colleagues?"
Well, I mean, we're gonna get into that actually because we have a little bit of some of that coming up here.
Oh, you got things to say too?
I do. Can I jump in now? Is it my turn? Yay!
I'll talk about Sharon Stone for a while
and her boobs. So I have a couple of these sort of.
Speaking of Sharon Stone's boobs, when they reconstructed after her mastectomy, when they reconstructed her breasts, the doctor, against her wishes, made them like 2 sizes bigger.
Okay,
that's a true story.
Sorry, Sharon.
Anyway, go ahead.
Thank you. God Almighty, I got 2 sentences in. I do want to talk about, because when I started researching this shit, I just went completely down the rabbit hole. So I do want to talk about a couple of the non-medical side of these things, like, and most of them, I mean, they're all pretty well known. Some of them are hilarious. Most of them are just absolutely fucking absurd. But remember the end of the Mayan calendar? And the whole world was going to collapse.
2012, right?
So yeah, I think it was 2012. The whole world was going to collapse because of a fucking decimated civilization.
Yeah, starring John Cusack.
At some point decided to stop recording days, like as if you can't pick that up later.
I love that.
Like we're like a few thousand years. We'll pick it up later.
2012 we got time.
Fine, right? It's time to pick it up later. Yeah,
probably okay, right?
Also, is it a chicken egg situation? Like, is the passage of time dependent on their? That was the thing that was like, do you need a calendar for time to just continue progressing?
I love that. Well, if there's no calendar in the woods, does time? Can you hear
make
it?
a sound?
Yeah.
I was just like, I remember people talking about this, and I'm like, they didn't stop because they were like, well, this is the end. They stopped because they were just like, oh, that's so long in the future. We could it'll just keep going. It's like an et cetera, et cetera. We've already done like so many thousands of years into the future. We'll be fine. We'll just keep going.
Also, I was always
keep
confused.
going.
It's a circle.
No shit.
Like I didn't see where
when you get to the end of the circle, you just start right over.
Yeah. Also, I didn't know that they were going to predict Olmec's Hidden Temple from Nickelodeon.
Well, it's just like Y2K and all that shit. But so we've also had like all these fucking ancient aliens, the Anunnaki, and all this fucking stupid shit. Astrology, which is still in effect today. The lunar effect, which I think is hilarious. Every time people are like, "Oh, it's a full moon, watch out," because like,
yeah, that's just real. I'm not even fucking around. Like, I've worked in the service industry long enough.
I've worked in the service industry for a long time.
You've been a bartender for a bajillion years.
A long time,
like,
yeah.
Fucking,
Most of my life.
There's no way. There's no fucking way that on a Friday night in the summer, when you're driving into work and you see a big bright ass full moon, that you don't go.
I think that, but I mean, the number of bullshit is the same. There's no empirical evidence to suggest that the moon cycles affect the fluid on your brain and make you act differently, is what I'm saying.
I don't know. Honestly, I honestly couldn't tell you that, because the moon does have gravity. It does affect the oceans.
Sure.
Right? And it would be, I think, arrogant, at least, to say that if it can make the ocean swell, that it wouldn't have some effect on at least, some of our...
Maybe the fluids in your body are affected, but how would that affect your attitude? Like, where your brain fluid... Like, people can get a skull fracture and be leaking cerebrospinal fluid and still are like... Yeah, this sucks. Like, they're not like, go fucking, like, goblin mode.
I don't know.
Anyway, my point, there is no empirical evidence to suggest stands. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna step back on this one.
Okay.
I think that it might affect your Orgone energy.
Certainly affects my cum. But
Vince, a full moon.
There's also a hollow earth theory, which
I love that one.
Fucking cracks me up. So for those of you who don't know, this theory suggests that the inside of the planet is hollow, and there's a whole different landscape. There's like different kingdoms and stuff. One of the kingdoms is called Agartha.
Agartha Brooks?
And people, Agatha Christie. People suggest... People also believe that there is like a civilization down there that's like advanced as fuck.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. There are a couple of different. I mean, like
UFO sightings are actually coming from Hollow Earth. They come out of the volcanoes and they bloop bloop bloop, and then they go back.
Even as like a sci-fi concept, Jules Verne did.
It is a very popular sci-fi. Yeah.
Jules Verne did Journey to the Center of the Earth a fucking bajillion years ago, right?
The operative word in that is science fiction. But
well, hey, you get
science
fiction to science fact.
They also think that Hollow Earth is populated by a bunch of mythological creatures. There's where all the cryptids live, I guess, and political figures. So you've got
oh yeah, the lizards. The lizards come from people come from the center of the earth.
I hear that Edgar Hoover and Rougarou and Princess Diana and Tupac have a fucking sick bowling squad, dude. Every week, They host poker night every month, man.
Fucking Rougarou and Princess Diana.
And J. Edgar Hoover. Jesus. Oh my God.
I think it'd be fun to see like a debate between a flat earther and a hollow earther. Because they're mutually exclusive.
I think it would be hysterical.
They cannot fucking possibly.
They can't coexist.
They can't coexist.
Yeah.
So just those two ideologies kind of smashed together.
Yeah.
Because I'd actually go so far as to say that the hollow earth has more validity than the flat earth.
If you are somehow a flat earther and a hollow earther at the same time, please
contact us.
Please send us a message. We want it so bad. We want to know how you put those two things together. And I'm
not even be a dick. I really want to know.
We'll try our best not to ridicule you. There's also another one. So this one, dude, shout out to, I met and had a very lengthy conversation with a couple of, this was just a chance encounter. Well, I didn't have like an appointment or anything, but a couple of history professors at the Flagler College here in St. Augustine, Florida.
Cool.
Professor Mike Butler and Professor Nick Miller, both history professors at Flagler College. And Mike Butler was like, "Oh, you have to do drapetomania." So
was that
drapetomania, right? So drapetomania was Dr. Samuel Cartwright, who was a physician in the 1800s, proposed in 1851. He had this hypothesis that the cause of enslaved Africans fleeing captivity was based off his belief that slavery was such an improvement on the lives of slaves.
Nope.
That I'm just quoting Samuel Cartwright, baby. It was such an improvement on the lives of slaves that only those suffering from some form of mental illness would wish to escape, right?
Nope. That's not something.
Well, he stated that the malady was a consequence of masters who, quote, made themselves too familiar with slaves, treating them as equals.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah. So, in a paper to the Medical Association of Louisiana, oh, God, Louisiana, come on, man.
Well,
Sometimes I'm so disappointed
it's
to be
something
there.
like, listen, these guys got too friendly with these folks, and then they gave a bunch of weird ideas, and they were like, I don't like when master's friendly, so they run away.
Well, I can quote him from his paper to the Medical Association of Louisiana. He wrote, quote, if treated kindly, well fed and clothed, with fuel enough to keep a small fire burning all night, separated into families, each family having its own house, not permitted to run about at night to visit their neighbors, to receive visits or use intoxicating liquors, and not overworked or exposed to too much weather, they are very easily governed, more so than any other people in the world. If any one or more of them at any time are inclined to raise their heads to a level with their master or overseer, humanity and their own good requires that they should be punished until they fall into that submissive state which was intended for them to occupy. Fucking hell.
Jesus Christ.
They have only to be kept in that state and treated like children to prevent and cure them from running away.
Treated like children?
Yeah. That's a lot of terrible words all in one paragraph.
I am at a loss for words.
Yeah. Well, listen, you have time to gather them because he also wrote an article entitled Diseases and Peculiarities of the Negro Race.
What is this guy's name?
Samuel Cartwright. Dr. Sam Cartwright.
Dr. Sam Cartwright is a fucking dickhead.
Yeah, for sure. So he wrote this article.
We don't like racism.
No, we sure don't. I think you could go back through our episodes and it's very well documented.
Unless apparently it's against Italians.
Oh God, that's Tim. That's not us.
Not us, baby. For that comment, I would like to apologize to our Italian listeners.
Again, we'll apologize
one
to our
more time.
Italian listeners. So yeah, he wrote this article entitled, I want you to listen again, Diseases and Peculiarities of the Negro Race. Mm-hmm. Where he cited the Bible's instructions for slaves to be submissive to their masters, saying, and this is another quote out of his paper, not my words, they're Samuel Cartwright's. I really, really, really want that to be obvious.
You want everyone to know that you're not saying
everyone to know that
yeah.
This is not me, dude. So, quote, if the white man attempts to oppose the deity's will by trying to make the Negro anything else than the submissive knee bender, which the Almighty declared he should be, by trying to raise him to a level with himself or by putting himself on an equality with the Negro, or if he abuses the power which God has given him over his fellow man by being cruel to him or punishing him in anger, or by neglecting to protect him from the wanton abuses of his fellow servants and all others, or by denying him the usual comforts and necessities of life, the Negro will run away. But if he keeps him... Sorry, was my intonation on that a little much? But
I mean, technically, I guess following the scientific method, yeah.
But if he keeps him in the position that we learn from the scriptures he was intended to occupy, that is the position of submission, and if his master or overseer be kind and gracious in his bearing toward him without condescension, and at the same time ministers to his physical wants and protects him from abuses, the Negro is spellbound and cannot run away.
Wow.
Yeah, more horrible words all in one paragraph.
Spellbound.
Spellbound is a lot. Submissive knee bender kind of hit me in the gut too. That was
damn. Did we just find a
cool.
new slur?
Oh God, no.
Jesus.
No. Nobody ever used that word. Those words ever.
Never to say that shit ever. Don't ever say that.
Not to anyone. I don't care what race they are. Don't say that. Unless like you're in a consensual sub-dom
like
thing
BDSM
going on.
dungeon.
Yeah.
You just be like, you submissive knee bender.
Yeah, you can use it.
No, it still feels dirty.
I
don't know.
But I mean, I think it's supposed to in that situation. So the prevention and remedy for drapetomania, by the way, in addition to just identifying it,
let me guess.
Go ahead.
Is it whipping?
His feeling was that with proper medical advice strictly followed, this troublesome practice that many Negroes have of running. Oh, by the way, this is a quote. Again, this is a quote. I'm sorry. With, quote, proper medical advice strictly followed, this troublesome practice that many Negroes have of running away can be almost entirely prevented. In the case of slaves sulky and dissatisfied without cause, a warning of imminent flight. That is a warning of imminent flight, I guess. Cartwright mentioned whipping the devil out of them.
Knew it.
As
I
a
fucking knew
preventative
it.
measure.
I
There was also
fucking
something
knew
I
it.
saw where you amputate their toes.
Oh yeah, toe cutting. Yeah, everyone knows that one.
Yeah, that's
No, nobody knows that. That's fucking horrifying.
yeah.
Yeah, you want to keep people from running away. Cutting their toes off will do it.
Do you do you think that Dr. Cartwright was done there?
Can he be?
Yeah, I wish he was. He also
Don't call him Dr. Cartwright.
right.
Let's fucking revoke that title.
Yeah, right. No shit. Sam, you think Sam was done there? He also identified, and I'm using air quotes here, identified another affliction called dysphagia ethiopica. Which goes to prove just because you fucking know Latin doesn't mean you know fucking shit. I'm pissed off because this guy, I can't say these words, but whatever. Dysphagia ethiopica, a disease causing, God damn it, a disease causing, quote unquote, rascality in black people.
Rascality.
Free and enslaved. So if you are a black person, you are genetically predisposed to rascality.
Rascality.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like that. Let's, for the love of fucking Beezus Quimby, let's move on to the medical and psychological end of these things because, so
I don't like that he's able to just like make such a cool word bad.
Rascality.
I want to use rascality now,
Yeah.
but like I feel like I can't.
You're going to think of that every time.
Ugh, damn it.
I do want to talk about phrenology, and I know that phrenology is one of the more popular ones, but it's like my personal favorite. I have a phrenology bust in my house. I've had it for, I tried to remember when I was doing my show notes. I was like, when did I get that? I've had it for so long. I don't remember.
I don't know why, but when we said rascality followed by phrenology, I thought of both of those words.
There's a grid on the.
I thought of both of those words on an album cover with a jumping dog, like Weezer's Ratitude.
Jesus, I thought you were gonna think there's like a slight protrusion on your skull that makes you prone to rascality.
My rascality button. No, I just pictured like
highly prone to rascality.
I just picture the cover of Ratitude, but it's rascality.
Okay. But yeah, like I said, phrenology is one of the more well-known ones. But it was also considered like very influential critical science for like 30 years in the 1800s, 1810 to 1840.
In some contexts, it still is considered like a good science.
Yeah.
Some people are like fucking into that shit.
Well, some people are into a lot of stupid shit.
Some
people put crystals in their assholes to heal them.
Phrenology, at the very least, is proven in some respects to have a base in science that is variable.
Okay, well, in my opinion, it's just fucking crazy, and
it's dumber than piss.
It's just so fucking crazy that it's hard not to love it.
Like, guys, you gotta understand, we're talking about pseudoscience, so it's got some.
But just because
got some
phrenology,
I don't know about that rascality comment so much.
Yeah, right. Just because phrenology itself is fucking bad shit, it also kind of inspired further studying of the brain at the time, which we'll get into that a little bit. So
pseudoscience can push other sciences.
Absolutely. So
like the study of coming.
So it was developed, phrenology was originally developed by a German physician named Franz Joseph Gall in 1796, right?
We will call it Franzology, says German.
Franzology. It's, for those of you who don't know, it's a process that involves observing and or feeling the skull to determine what an individual's like psychological attributes are, right? So
you got a lumpy head, you're probably stupid.
Yeah. So Gall believed that the brain was made up of 27 individual organs that determine personality. The first 19 of these organs, quote unquote, he believed to exist in other animal species. The other 8 were unique to humans, right? And so phrenologists would run their fingertips and their palms over the skulls of patients to feel for enlargements or indentations. And then they had, if you've never seen one, like a phrenology bust or a phrenology chart.
It's one of those heads that's like bisected with like a very...
It's got a bunch of...
kind of a grid pattern with like different little areas.
Yes. So you've never seen the one that I have?
I don't think so. I have seen a lot of them on the internet where
Yeah.
it's somebody's head and then it's got this whole like section. It's like 90s like cartoon quotes.
Well, yeah, that's
this one Cheeto flavors.
Right.
Like yeah.
No, but they I mean, if you can find very easily the original that has all of these sort of mapped out areas of your skull from the outside, where if you have certain protrusions or indentations, then they could tell you what, like, psychologically, what type of person you
hit
are.
you in the head, leave that dead.
Right.
I've got a little bust. It's called friendology, and the parts of the head are bisected into Joey, Phoebe, Chandler, Ross,
Jesus
Monica,
Christ.
and Rachel.
And the soup Nazi.
But that's Seinfeld.
Oh, okay, my bad. I've never seen any episodes of either one of those, so fucking at me. Phrenologists would take measurements with a tape measure of your overall head. So, by the way, if you've ever seen any of the old videos or photos of doctors using that, like the big calipers on people's heads.
Yeah.
So that's
Like babies'
phrenology.
heads and
that
shit,
was
yeah.
phrenology. So you get like
Just pictures. A doctor's got the caliper on a baby's head. And goes,
this baby's gonna be violent.
he's just like measuring it. That's a big ass head.
So yeah, from the absolute sizes, from the relative sizes to other people of the skull, the phrenologist would assess the character and temperament and basic psychology of the patient, right? So Gall's list of the brain organs, as he called them, because there were 27 different ones. So it wasn't just one cohesive brain; it was multiple different organs inside of your skull, right?
Well, yeah.
This is early 1800s. So
you're fucking cutting a brain open. You're like, there's a bunch of shit on here. What's this cauliflower looking ass thing do?
So it was very specific. So each area of the skull, kind of like on the other side of the skull, was that specific organ of the brain. And so how your skull developed had to do with how enlarged or receded that area of the brain was. And so an enlarged organ obviously meant that the patient used that particular organ extensively.
That's the same thing that Wilhelm
and
Reich
vice
said.
versa. Yeah.
Yeah, the enlarged organ.
An enlarged organ
means he was using it extensively. He's probably doing okay.
So the number of organs and the more detailed meanings of those organs were added later by other phrenologists. But originally it was the 27 areas. They varied in function, and they went from like sense of color to religiosity to being combative or destructive. Hang on, I've got one pulled up here. We've got things like submissiveness, benevolence. There's like one for, I can't find which one like got me earlier, but there's like one for hope. What you hope for
How
things.
hopeful you are.
Yeah. Secretiveness. I mean, destructiveness. There's like, and this was all based on like feeling the outside of your head, which,
like Bugs Bunny fucking rubbing some shit into Elberfudd's head.
Looking at it now is a bit fucking stupid. I'll just say it. It's stupid.
You see like a phrenologist doctor, like a client walks in, he's got a real lumpy head. They're just like, I'm gonna make my money on this one.
Yeah. So again, as the phrenologist felt the skull, he would use his knowledge of the shapes of heads and organ positions to determine the overall natural strengths and weaknesses of the individual, right? And so they believe that the head revealed natural tendencies, but not necessarily absolute like limitations or strengths of your character. But this gave you kind of a
rough
little,
idea.
Yeah,
like
a little
reading.
of an idea. Yeah. So where it ended up promoting further studying of the brain is that prior to that, traditionally, the mind had been studied through introspection, through psychology, through, just what people tell you and what behaviors you sort of monitor in those people, right?
Yeah, because if it's not a living person that you can investigate there, you just look at it for a fucking meat blob.
Yeah. So phrenology provided sort of an attractive biological, scientific biology-based alternative that attempted to unite all the mental phenomena and stuff.
I think it's worth noting that a lot of these pseudoscience movements are based on convenience. Like, if it's something that people can understand right away when you tell it to them, it's way more likely to convey itself.
Right.
Wilhelm Reich being like, yeah, if you come good, then you're probably healthy. People are like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, or it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, you got a lumpy head. You probably got something fucked up with your brain. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay,
all right,
yeah, that's from this lump here.
The hollow earth.
I beat my wife because of this lump.
This lump.
It's right. Look, it's call the doctor. He'll tell you. I get to beat my wife and kids. No, that's on the other side. I get kids on this side.
The thing in the hollow earth that makes sense is the centrifugal gravity, because the earth's still spinning. You know, the insides here held to the ground with centrifugal force. That's cool. I like that. That's fun.
Sure.
That makes you on like a tilt-a-whirl.
Oh God. So, but because that, you know, that approach sort of prepared the way for studying the human mind. And I mean, it would eventually lead to, like, Gall kept studying the brain, and it eventually led to the downfall of his own theories of phrenology. But
the gall of that, man.
Yeah, that contributed to the development of physical anthropology, forensic medicine, knowledge of the nervous system, brain anatomy. All these things sort of started at that point. And I think, have you ever heard the story of Phineas Gage?
No.
The railman in the 1840. Well, his accident happened in the early 1840s.
Is this the one? Is this the one that had a monkey?
No, this is the guy who worked on a line crew making, you know, making tracks, right? And they had a crew working somewhere mountainous and rocky, right? And so in order to sort of clear a path for the train tracks, you would use black powder and tamp it down into holes in the rocks and explode it and blah blah blah. So, and they had these big long rods that were probably about 3 feet long.
Yeah, they did.
And and that's what they would use to tamp sand over the black powder, so that you sort of, the force of the explosion would go into the rock.
That's where the saying "pound sand, bro" came from.
Maybe. I don't know that.
You never heard that one?
Yeah, I have. I say it all the time, but
Pound sand.
is that sounds like pseudoscience? I don't feel like you have empirical
No, I don't have
evidence
any
on that
evidence on that at all. I haven't followed the scientific method on that.
So, so at some point he was tamping this powder down, right? And somebody else on his crew caught his attention, and he looked over toward them to yell something to them and put his face right in the line of fire, right? And the tamp hit stone and sparked, caused the explosion. This fucking rod, 3-foot rod that's like 1.25 inches in diameter, went up through his fucking mouth,
Yang.
through the roof of his mouth, behind the left eye, and out through the top of his fucking head.
God damn.
Homeboy lived. By the way, Homeboy was out. He, according to the people on the scene,
blew out a fucking section of his brain, huh?
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. There's a story by the doctor, Dr. John Harlow, who saw him.
John Harlow said, "Holy shit!"
Who said that at one point he vomited and pieces of his brain glooped out from around the fucking. The rod was still in his head.
I was kind of hoping that you were gonna say he vomited pieces of his brain,
No,
which
but-
is
but-
fucking gnarly.
But they oozed out of the fucking right. So, but I mean, this dude was so when it initially happened, he fell back on the ground and convulsed, and after a couple of minutes woke up and was aware of everything, was like, oh shit, what happened? You know, what's going on? Why can't I see out of my one eye? What's this? I guess he had a rod holding his fucking bottom jaw back. But I mean, he was able to stand up, get into a cart, and go to the. God, can you imagine riding in a fucking horse-drawn cart to the nearest doctor with a fucking rod through the roof of your mouth, pushing your lower jaw back? Your left eye is blind because it completely severed the ocular nerve from the eyeball.
Jesus Christ.
And out through the fucking top of your head, and he had to take a fucking through the countryside
Well, slow down.
to get to the doctor. But there are a lot of stories. So, but Phineas Gage happened in the 1840s, right? So right as phrenology was kind of becoming defunct science, and Phineas Gage was a crazy. People didn't understand how the fuck did he live. This went through his brain. And so that started sort of some theories about okay, obviously different parts of the brain do different things. And so, but there are a lot of stories. So there's a lot of convoluted bullshit that isn't documented at all. Like people have just made stuff up about like, oh, well, before he was a really nice sort of, how's it going kind of guy, and then
like the stories like he affected him, made him like angry.
That's the story, is that he
stuff,
ended up being this angry, abusive, fucking sexual predator, crazy guy who died fucking loony and penniless. But
it's dramatic, but
it's not. It is dramatic, but I think that was just for dramatic effect because there's no actual evidence that any of that happened. As a matter of fact, for many years after it happened, you can see photos of him. He toured around the country. Not as like part of a sideshow or anything like that, but he toured around the country and he kept the rod. Oof. And he had a name for it. It's like old trusty or something. I can't remember what he called
brain
it.
Poker.
Yeah, he kept that. But I mean, you can see photos of him post, everything. Like he managed to heal. The only thing about how it affected him psychologically were just like during his, because Dr. Harlow writes extensively about him. He was the physician who took care of him and managed to fucking get him to live, because this is 1840 something. Right. Like just in general, anesthesia, nope.
Yeah.
Maybe if he's got some, but as far as antiseptics, nope. Antibiotics, nope. So
boil
the
down
fact
some
that this
piss
dude,
and slap it on there.
The fact that this dude lived is kind of insane to begin with, but
also kind of like a big gimme for science.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about how like morbid and ghoulish like the actual discovery of a bunch of medical practices is? Yeah, like we mentioned.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They mentioned like Joseph Mengele earlier. Like we know some fucking horrible things from that guy.
Well, yeah,
but because the
Germans in the 1940s.
Yeah, one of the big things about science and the reason that it's slow going a lot of the time is morality. We are specifically held back by how monstrous we could be. Like we know at what temperature a person boils because of Joseph Mengele and his experiments on Jews in Auschwitz.
Jesus Christ.
Like shit like that. But we shouldn't.
Yeah, probably not. How does that even help science in any way, shape, or form? How does that help medicine?
I think the claim is that if that person is like a few degrees below, that you can probably save them.
Oh my god.
Like finding weird layers of science like that comes through horrifying and monstrous experimentation, unless you get a cool like gimme where somebody gets their fucking brain skewered in an accident and lives. And you can be like, I did something noble, I saved him. Also, I got a whole bunch of information about brains now.
Well, yeah, so Harlow wrote pretty extensively about his recovery, and so I think that's where a lot of these things got conflated to be bigger sort of, oh god, Phineas Gage ended up being, from a nice guy to a monster. Wasn't the case, but what was the case, according to John Harlow's writings, was like one day he would be like his parents came from wherever they were to visit him, and he knew his parents and stuff like that. And the next day he'd be, he wouldn't know that. One day he would be like super morose. One day he would be sort of, well-tempered. And so, which I mean, so much of that could just be because what the fuck? I mean can you imagine how many things are going through the sections of your brain that you still have?
With him, just the one.
How many things are going through about like just how is your life gonna be from here on out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so like there's a lot of
your
stuff.
Own human concerns.
Right, exactly.
But I mean everybody knows that head trauma can cause difficulty in regulating your emotions.
Right. So at any rate, that was sort of, I don't know for sure.
What was the
that
Phineas Gauge of the hole in his head?
Oh, about 1.25 inches.
Oof.
Yeah. That's the diameter on those rods.
Was it like a fucking hole through his head that stayed a hole, or did you could see through his fucking head?
No. They patch. I mean, eventually skin grows over that.
So
they were able to like put some sort of bandage there that allowed the skin to grow back.
Because it'd be a cool party trick if he could like wow.
But he certainly had like a soft spot in his head. So, but yeah, I'm sort of correlating those two together based on what I remember from like college psychology classes that I took. But I mean, I'm certain that there has to be some sort of correlation, because this is sort of that era of starting to understand the brain. And I mean, that goes all the way into current, really.
Brains are crazy.
Yeah. It's never concluded. There's never been like, all right, we got this one. Mark, check the box and move on to the next one.
There's another thing about science. Like, I had a thought recently. Mm-hmm. If we were like, if we say humans, like we're just plopped on Earth with perfect like thinking brains, logical, just fucking, are smart.
We're computers.
Boom. Yeah, boom, computers. Like I was thinking of what the first priorities would be. Right. All right. First would be food and shelter.
Food, shelter.
Then finding how to create those in perpetuity.
Sure.
Right? Once those are taken care of, it would be becoming immortal.
You think so?
I think that would be the next thing. Is like, because otherwise you're just going to die.
I think it would become procreation pretty quickly.
Possibly, depending on where like the level of logic
Once
lies.
you got the food and shelter in perpetuity, then your next thing would be procreation.
Yeah, well, because then you're like, now we can grow and
Now we know
prosper.
That, yeah. Again, we're looking at this purely logical. We're computer brains, right? We're not going to procreate until after we know that we can survive and continue surviving as a species.
There's an immediate like, oh, and also we will die at some point. So let's handle that.
You think so?
I mean, yeah, wouldn't that be the logical thing to do?
I have no desire to be immortal.
Well, too bad.
I barely had the desire to get to 43.
Well, then that would mean it would. If you were just thinking from a pure place of logic, the logical would have to either be to live,
right. I don't have whatever mental illnesses make me upset about
or just
my existence.
Be dead right now.
Okay,
those are the only two logical options, right?
So
like, so
fair enough.
You know, to me, science is such like a weird, convoluted thing because just the conversation we just had, what an odd topic, because it would seem logically that would be the first priority is like, let's make all people immortal.
Yeah.
And no one has shown that any type of priority or intrigue or interest ever.
Some people have.
Yeah, but like crazy people in comic books that are like, I'll live forever.
Crazy real people. They do that.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, let's move on to aromatherapy. I'm kidding.
Nope, sucks.
Let's talk about cupping.
Yeah.
Not cupping anything cool.
The cups and the balls.
I do have, you know what, I thought about this while I was doing the notes. I have a fucking hilarious story about one time, this is years ago. This is when my son's mother and I were together and her parents were here visiting. And we had this crazy idea, like, let's go to the local farmer's market and like, you know, whatever. And then we had it was a nice day out. And I was like, we'll do this, we'll do that. We'll go get some lunch.
It's weird how easily like if you stopped here and didn't say what happened to the rest of it, that story would translate into something very disturbing and sexual.
It could.
We're just like, hey, fuck it. Let's go to the farmer's market. And then...
So we go to the farmer's market and I had been having like some really bad seasonal allergies at the time. Like, don't get them quite as bad anymore, but there was a time when I would just be like every few months I'd have like a week where I was just miserable. And it was usually like when you go outside and you see pollen all over everything. You're like, oh my God, I feel like shit. Right. So I was sniffling and sneezing and stuff. And there's a guy at the farmer's market that was like, oh, I can take care of that for you. And I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, however much it was, $10 or some shit like that. And he was like, oh, sit down over here. And it was like I guess it was like a massage chair, but one that you like sit up on. So you're sitting sort of AC Slater style with the back of it like between your legs, and there's like a hole for your face.
I like that you said AC Slater style. I would have gone with Will Riker.
Okay.
From Star Trek Next
Sure.
Generation.
Yeah. But that's either way. You're sitting on the chair backwards with your face through a hole, and you're sort of leaning forward, but you're in a sitting position more or less.
Right.
And this guy pulls out tuning forks.
Yeah.
He's got tuning forks of different frequencies, and he's going to do some sort of fucking sound therapy to get my allergies to stop. And so my father-in-law at the time was like, I'll pay him, like, just, do it. And he's like not one of these dudes.
Be silly.
Yeah, he's not one of these dudes who's like,
we're going to have a good night
no,
anyway.
he used to race motocross and fucking like play golf semi-professionally. He's like a fucking outdoorsy, like, fuck that bullshit kind of guy. And he's like, yeah, go ahead, do it. So I sit there while this guy's just going, ding, and like rubbing it around my head and in my fucking like near my face and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck? Get up, and he's like, how do you feel? And I was like, I feel all right, I guess. And he's like,
yeah,
well, good. Because, you come back if you need more. And I walked like 10 feet away, and I was like, I still feel like shit. I still feel like absolute shit.
I was, when I was living in New York.
Fucking tuning forks out of my face.
I was having this horrible winter in New York. Just fucking, I'd been sick and like was constantly sweating and running everywhere. And it was a fucking nightmare. Winter in New York, if you're poor, sucks. A whole big fat bag of dicks, everyone knows. Like any major city, really, but. So I was walking through, coming back from work one time, like late, like 10 o'clock. I was a fucking teacher. I had to be at work at like 7 in the morning. And Like I'm walking through, bedraggled as shit, walking through the subway station.
Bedraggled.
I was bedraggled.
Okay.
Walking through a subway
Is that like
station.
Aj? You're just every episode
You
you're
don't
gonna
know
make something-
bedraggled?
I don't think
You know
bedraggled
what?
is a word.
One thing that we're going to prove on the show is that I know my fucking words.
Okay. I
Okay.
know a lot of words too.
You don't know bedraggled?
I don't know. I feel like you put two words together for that one.
Okay, so maybe there's not a good definition for Aj. But bedraggled, it's an adjective meaning dirty and disheveled.
Okay.
So
It's a real word.
Yes, it's a real word.
All right.
So I was bedraggled walking through this subway station, and there's a nice lady at a table. Was like, "You look tired, sir. You okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, just heading home from work. Long day." She goes, "Well, we've got like a little thing here, this booth. We can tell you exactly what your stressors are, and I might be able to help you out." And I was like, "That's a chair."
Yeah.
So yeah, I could sit in that for a second.
Spread your ass cheeks. We're gonna put this crystal in there.
No, I sit in the chair, and she hands me these two like electrified metal rods,
Put this in your ass.
and she's just like.
Both of them.
She's just hold on to these, and then she puts this fucking
One goes in your ass. One goes in your mouth.
just holding them, and then there's a machine that's got like a little meter stick. I'm making a hand gesture, like
yeah, I see it.
fucking.
You're going no.
No,
No, no.
No, like
Yeah, yeah.
and so she's just like, well, let me just ask you some questions. Are you having stressors about your family? And I was
Oh
like,
my
no, not
God.
really. I've been fucking living on my own. So she's like, okay, well, let's say I'll just say a few more other words, right? Like, is it finances? And I was like, not really. I'm poor. I share an apartment. And she goes, what about work? And then the fucking thing goes wham, 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 and my fucking hands tense. I can feel it. Like, oh shit. And I was like, yeah, I am stressed as fuck from work. And she's like, well, we can help with this. She's a fucking Scientologist.
Oh no.
Yeah, and she gives me literature and the fucking.
You got your thetans measured.
Yeah, so it was a thetan reader.
You got your
and,
thetans
and I'm
measured.
walking, and she gave me like a free like little like
Fuck
pamphlet on
off.
Dianetics and shit.
No.
And I'm walking away like, that was fucking crazy. How did it know? And then it occurred to me like, look at me. I'm walking home. I told her that I was walking home at 10 o'clock at night
Yeah.
looking like shit.
Yeah.
Fucking from work.
Oh my god.
And then she gives me an electro rod. Yeah, and fucking pushes a little button to give me a little shock.
a little
to say,
shock
like,
so you tense.
whoa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, I got fucking had these hacks.
You only would have been had if you hadn't fucking figured it out on the
She
way.
tried to sell me the Dianetics book, and I was like,
God,
I don't have
it
any.
was only $8,000.
But it was great. It was like, it's like $75, and I was
Gross.
like, I looked her right in the face. I was like, ma'am, I don't have any money.
Yeah. Get the fuck out of my face.
And she was like, oh,
Yeah, you and your thetans, get out of here. Go back to your fucking.
feet in my ass.
Go back to your volcano overlord or whatever the fuck he is.
It's alien ghosts.
Yeah. So this brings me to my final one that I wanted to talk about today. I want to talk about Germanic New Medicine.
Okay.
And I know that I've been really shitting on the Germans here lately, and
Scheisen.
yeah, I have been just covering them in all of my Scheisen.
I thought your last topic was going to be GSA. GSA, genetic sexual attraction.
No.
It's a hypothesis that people who are attracted to others who that share similar physical, intellectual, and physical traits can lead to intense feelings between biological relatives.
I've never been attracted to anybody who looks remotely like me.
The theory is that if you like have a long lost sibling and you get reunited, you're gonna want to fuck them.
Is this Freud? Sounds like it.
It's a pseudoscience.
Okay. Well, no, I want to talk about Germanic New Medicine because this one's fucking crazy. So it was developed by Rika Geerdhammer.
Rika Geerdhammer.
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 German guy, right? He is the guy who started German or Germanic New Medicine, right? So how's this for an origin story for fucking pseudoscience?
Okay.
On August 8th of 1978, Hammer's son, Dirk, was shot by the son of the last king of Italy, a guy named Vittorio Emanuele of Savoy, while asleep on a yacht off Cavallo, and he died December 7th of that year.
What?
So that's yeah.
The last son of the king.
The son of the last king of Italy was shot, Hammer's son, right? Sometime after Dirk's death, Hammer developed testicular cancer, and he thought that there was a link between the two events. So he began to develop Germanic New Medicine.
Did his son get shot in the balls?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know how many shots were fired, but so Yeah, he began to develop Germanic New Medicine, which can be summarized in its quote-unquote 5 biological laws, right? You ready for these laws?
Number 1, if your kid is killed, your balls fall off.
That should be one of them. The first law is called the Iron Rule. Severe diseases originate from a shock event which is experienced by the individual as very difficult, highly acute, dramatic, and isolating. The shock's psychological conflict content determines the location of the appearance of a focus of activity in the brain that can be seen in a CT scan as a set of concentric rings, blah, 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 right?
Jesus, say that sentence fast.
Right, so
In German.
the second law is the two-phased nature of disease. A patient who has not solved their conflict is in the first active conflict phase, where the sympathetic nervous system predominates and which manifests as a, quote, cold disease accompanied by cold skin and extremities, stress, weight loss, and sleep disorders. If they manage to resolve the conflict, they enter the second post-resolution healing phase, in which the parasympathetic nervous system predominates, commonly diagnosed as a separate, quote, warm disease.
Hold on, these are ghost rules.
The
spirit doesn't know that it's dead. That's the first stage. It needs to accept its thing before it can move on to the next stage.
Pretty much.
It can resolve its conflict and then ascend to the afterlife.
The second phase is usually the one that entails more risks, and a complete cure only comes upon its completion. In some circumstances,
You come upon your completion.
yeah, in some circumstances, not solving the conflict but downgrading it to a reasonably livable level may be the preference to someone facing the second phase. Right, that's the second law. The third law is the ontogenetic system of diseases. So Hammer proposes that disease progression is primarily controlled by the brain, either by the old brain, quote unquote, or the new brain.
No, that's my old brain.
I don't know why I went Jiminy Glick on that. Or the new brain.
Or the new brain. You got kind of a new brain, don't you?
Yeah, so the old brain is the brainstem and cerebellum, and the new brain is the cerebrum.
Lady cerebellum?
The old brain controls more primitive processes having to do with basic survival, such as breathing, eating, reproduction, blah, 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 blah. So basically he's saying that conflicts which have their focus either in the brainstem or in the cerebellum show cell multiplication in the conflict active phase and destruction of the resulting tumors in the healing phase. Cerebrum. Oh my God, dude. This is so fucking convoluted.
This is fucking boring. Just pick a small explanation for this dumb shit.
But I haven't even gotten into the fourth or fifth laws. The fifth law is called quintessence. The conflict active phase and the healing phase of diseases, as described above, constitute special meaningful programs of nature developed during the evolution of the species to allow organisms to override everyday functioning in order to deal with particular emergency situations. We skip the ontogenetic system of microbes. It's basically bullshit about how microbes and stuff like that, like they're bullshit. So you can kill them.
The quintessence is that like you get a superpower and in like a fantastic situation. If your kid's trapped under a bus, you can lift the bus.
All this boils down to this. According to Hammer, no real diseases exist. Rather, what established medicine calls a disease, quote unquote, is actually a special, meaningful program of nature to which bacteria, viruses, and fungi belong.
Oh, suck my dick.
Hammer's German New Medicine claims to explain every disease and treatment according to those premises, and to thereby obviate traditional medicine. The cure basically is the cause is that you have some fucking trauma. Or drama, both.
Save the trauma for your mama.
And her drama. The cure is...
No more trauma.
The cure is resolving that conflict, right? That's it. There's no real diseases.
You're sick because something bad happened to you.
You're sick because
if you can accept that.
Son got shot by the King of Italy's son on a yacht.
He thinks he got testicular cancer because he was bummed out.
Yeah, because his son got shot.
Jesus Christ.
By the King of Italy's son while on a yacht.
You think that... Oh, my God.
So he says also treatments like chemotherapy and pain relieving drugs like morphine are deadly. That they're designed to kill us. Right?
Oh yeah,
chemotherapy and pain reliever.
It's dumber than piss.
Morphine.
I preferred it when it was ghost rules. Did you know? Actually, speaking of the afterlife, Wilhelm Reich actually wrote one of the ghost rules.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, busting makes me feel good.
I fucking hate you so much right now.
Oh, but I love you.
So, Hammer announced the creation of his new medicine in 1981.
My new medicine is called not being sad, and your balls are okay.
My balls got so much better once I stopped being sad.
Once I realized that all the fungus and all the
Oh my God.
bacteria were important for the world, then
Ball fungus.
my ball cancer left.
So obviously his shit was rejected en masse by the scientific
Once I got over the
establishment.
murder of my son, my testicular cancer went
Well,
away.
listen to this. What this fucking asshole does, right? So he's rejected soundly by the scientific establishment, right? He opens a series of cancer clinics between 1982 and 1985. They were all closed down by authorities for illegal practices. The vast majority of his patients died at these clinics.
I wonder why.
Yeah, and by the way, but he continued to publicly present his treatment methods as successful. In 1986, his medical license was revoked, and he continued to practice illegally in various European countries,
How did he?
in between prosecutions and stints in jail.
How did he try and like happy the cancer away? What did he do? Did he pull a Patch Adams and like do fucking juggling routines, or like?
Hey, I'm going to put on this nose, okay?
Or was he just like, stop being so sad in there. You know you get sicker.
Right. So this all culminated in 1995.
Sounded kind of Schwarzenegger. Stop being sad in there.
You know you can't do that.
It's not a tumor. Fuck. Fucking nailed
God
it.
damn it.
Nailed it.
You're such a piece of shit.
I fucking rule right now.
Oh my God, I hate it. So in 95, this all culminated in 95, right? So Hammer was associated with this case of a 6-year-old Austrian girl named Olivia Pilar. Pilar, yeah. And she suffered from a Wilms tumor. Not sure what that is. I didn't look it up. I'm so sorry.
There's a lot on her plates here. Okay.
It's a cancerous tumor. She had a cancerous tumor, right? So Pilar's parents were members of some weird fucking religious movement, and they referred them to Hammer, right? So he diagnosed this 6-year-old girl as having several conflicts, not cancer. She's just a 6-year-old with so many conflicts, right? So,
okay.
So the parents refused, conventional fucking cancer treatments.
I hate that.
Right. So the Austrian government said, okay.
That's the trope that you see on like House or The Good Doctor or some shit.
God.
It's like, we don't believe in modern medicine.
Yeah, and he's got to convince them. So
like, please,
I'm a Christian scientist. I'm going to die.
Your child is having heart failure. Please let me give them
no shit.
nitroglycerin.
Yeah, if it's their time, it's their time. So the Austrian government removed their rights as parents.
Yeah, fuck them people.
So the parents fled to Spain, which, guess who lived in Spain at the time?
Oh, it was Mr. Hammer.
Mr. Hammer.
Mr.
Hammer.
Army Hammer.
So, eventually, after negotiations, and the fucking Austrian president had to get involved in this intervention, the parents returned to Austria. But by then, Olivia's health had deteriorated. The tumor had grown even bigger. It weighed 4 kilograms.
She just needs to dance. She needs to dance it away.
4 kilos is a lot.
That's a big old tumor.
Yeah. It was filling most of her abdominal cavity and was pressing against her lungs. The lack of treatment reduced the estimate of her survival probability from 90% to 10%. A court had to order conventional cancer treatment without surgery. And she did chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and everything. She actually recovered and was still alive as of 2010 was the last I saw. But her parents went to jail for 8 months for that in Austria.
For child endangerment?
I mean, that's crazy. A 6-year-old girl.
It's the most child endangerment I've seen from Austria since the Van Trapp family.
Jesus.
16 going on 17 years.
Oh, God. So Hammer has repeatedly claimed that German new medicine could cure more than 90% of cancer cases. In reality, though, evidence of his patients successfully treated by German new medicine is
0, but it's nothing.
Well, it's anecdotal. What we do know is that there have been at least 140 documented deaths of GNM patients.
The only thing that are alive around him are the hills with music.
You got to let this one die, dude. You got to let it die.
Can't. They've been singing these songs for thousands of years.
He's not even Austrian. He's German. He's not even in Austria right now.
Oh, fuck.
So Hammer attributed those deaths to intervention by conventional medicine, right? They died because they went to get chemotherapy.
Because they didn't do it right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and also to patients not being fully committed to his cure.
Yeah, you really got to commit.
They only half-assed it. They did not whole-ass it.
Jesus Christ. That guy whole-assed it.
Yeah, so needless to say, German new medicine is condemned by the medical community. It's not supported by any empirical testing whatsoever.
It's also that's a bullshit.
It's not backed up by any body of literature at all, other than what Hammer wrote, which is delusional at best.
Crazy fun fact: German medicine, pretty good, fucking good these days.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you just throw tons of human misery and suffering. Just throw them in the grinder, baby.
I don't think that the German doctors are good in 2024 because of Nazis.
Nah.
I mean, maybe it's one of those like, hey, let's do a really good job because they can get over the Nazi thing.
So we can be known for something else, please. Good cars. We make good cars, guys.
Yeah, but BMW.
Yeah, like I said, the Nazis helped.
Yeah.
There's nothing that the Germans excel at that the Nazis didn't help.
It's a real bummer with the Nazis because they did everything real good except not being murderous fuckholes.
No, they did that real well too.
No, I'm saying they did everything good except not being murderous fuckholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, this should come as no surprise to anyone, but
not a fan of Nazis. We don't like Nazis on the show.
Well, buckle in. Hammer purported that his method is a Germanic alternative to mainstream clinical medicine, which he claimed is part of a Jewish conspiracy to decimate non-Jews.
There it goes.
Mm-hmm. So Hammer repeated the anti-Semitic claims of Nazi physician Gerhard Wagner, right? He asserted that chemotherapy and morphine, like I said earlier, are used to mass murder Western civilization, while also falsely alleging that such treatments are not used in Israel, right? Nobody uses chemotherapy or morphine in Israel because the Jews. He promoted the idea that most German oncologists are Jewish. So if you're in Germany and you have cancer, more than likely your oncologist is a Jewish person, and that no Jew is treated with chemotherapy in Germany. According to him, hypodermic needles are used during chemotherapy to implant chips.
Oh, chips.
Yeah, where have we heard this? Containing chambers of poison that can be activated by satellite to specifically kill patients.
Oh, and what year was this?
This was in the 2000s. This was in the early 2000s.
So at least 20 years we've been rocking the fucking microchip satellite poison conspiracy. Jesus.
Yeah, he also during the swine flu vaccination campaign of 2009, he said that the vaccination was to put chips in people. He also denied the existence of HIV. He said that AIDS was not a result of HIV. AIDS was a result of the conflicts that people had from being diagnosed with HIV.
They're so bummed out about being diagnosed with HIV that they get AIDS.
Yes. Exactly.
That made me fucking Joker laugh. Just
it literally hurts your brain to think about somebody being so fucking stupid. He also believed that the denial of recognition of his theories and the revocation of his license to practice being a doctor is due to a Jewish conspiracy.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So in 2008, he presented a document where a supposed rabbi, a guy named Iwan Ivan Gotz, confirmed
Ivan
Gotz to fucking wrap this shit up.
Ivan Gotz to get away.
Yeah. He confirmed the existence of a conspiracy among Jewish oncologists to use the torture of chemotherapy on all non-Jewish patients. So whether you have cancer or not, you're getting fucking chemo, my boy.
Hey, Patrick, where do you stand on Jews?
They're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm for them.
I'm sure there's some great ones and there's probably some that are assholes.
Where do you stand on...
Just like everything else.
Where do you stand on vaccinations?
Yeah, they've eradicated so many fucking diseases.
Yeah,
the reason your kids don't die of smallpox and polio is because of that. Yeah.
I'll say that since it is an injection...
When was the last time someone died of scarlet fever?
Yeah, I will say that since it is an injection of...
Rubella?
of a static form of.
Have you ever had rubella?
Not lately, but since it is an injection of a static form of bacteria, it could, I think it could have a negative effect on a very, very small case of people.
It can,
but I think
and normally that's
the benefits
a thing.
far outweigh
Right.
the.
That's a thing that's projected,
Yeah.
right? That's not a thing that's kept secret.
I've gotten flu shots and felt kind of shitty for a while. You know?
I've never gotten a flu shot, but I've also never had the flu. If I got
felt
the
a
flu
little
every
shitty
year,
because
then,
they gave me
okay.
the flu kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine what this dude. He's a fucking. Well, you could do a deep dive on this Ivan Gotts.
No, I'm not going to do that.
He claims to be like a fucking rabbi.
He's a fucking douchebag.
He's a Holocaust denier, and he's a fucking in with the Nazis.
Pretty sure the Holocaust happened.
Yeah, I think it's very well documented.
Yeah,
actually.
I've been to museums, and
super
shit,
well documented.
Like,
there are
I've
photos and
met
videos.
People
and
that were involved in it. There's a whole thing.
crazy.
You know?
Yeah.
I say involved in it.
That makes it sound like they were on the wrong side.
No, I didn't meet those ones.
Yeah.
I met some old Jewish folk that were like, "Yeah, hey."
My good friend Herr Wagner, he was involved.
I met some old Jewish folk that were like, "Yeah, I was in the Holocaust," and I'm like, "Man, that's crazy." And they had no reason to tell me that unless they were.
Yeah, so like he claimed this Gotts guy claims that he's like a superior rabbi, and like he's been repeatedly convicted by German courts for fraud, defamation, misuse of academic titles. The title chief rabbi is not even like a legally protected term in Germany.
I'm the chief of all rabbis.
Falsification. I have a quick. So let's see. He got convicted of Holocaust denial.
Is that a crime?
3 years of probation, apparently. In Germany, yeah, they're real hardcore about that. This is all in Germany.
In the U.S.
No, he's been convicted in Germany of all these things: Holocaust denial, fraud, twice for defamation of a judge, illegal use of an academic title, fencing stolen goods. Apparently, he sold a stolen car, illegal smuggling of immigrants, which seems very much on the opposite side of what you stand for, my dude. But whatever. Illegal possession of firearms and falsification of documents.
It's all standard rabbi behavior.
He mostly got probation for most of this, but he was formally sentenced to 6 months of probation on one of the Holocaust denial things. He was ordered to be examined by a psychiatrist at least twice. He lost his driver's license. Yeah, it's just he's a fucking nightmare. So this guy runs with the
safe to say. I think that his science probably
the German New Medicine crowd. Let's just. I mean,
let's give him a chance.
Here's the thing, man. You know, it's I guess a crisis of convenience, right? Modern medicine has figured out a way to cure so many people of so many afflictions. Not to say they always get cured, but frequently a lot of the things that people, for example, when we did our British monarchy, dysentery. When was the last time somebody died of dysentery?
Oh, it happens fairly recently.
People who do what?
Live in the jungle
and don't seek medical care.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like I know one person, like my sister's best friend growing up, grown ass woman named Lori,
just toughed it out and just shit herself to death.
Studying like biology, primatology. She was in I want to say Africa and Chicago. Fucking dysentery.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, but I mean. Yeah, without medical treatment, people die. And so, like I said, I think it's a bit of a crisis of convenience because it's easy to look at all these things and go, oh, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. When you look at most of these people are uninformed and you look at how many people used to die of things, like I said, smallpox, polio, fucking measles, you know, children died, a lot of them. And so now that
Scarlet fever.
Yeah, now that it's been all but eradicated.
Crimson grip.
Now that it's been all but eradicated because of vaccinations, people have this sort of like, oh, well, they just want my kid to get this so that they can use a satellite to kill my kid if they want to. How crazy do you have to be to get from A to B?
That's pretty tough.
Crazy.
Well, there's
just a lot crazy.
Well, we've been talking about this a lot. I think that the basis of pseudoscience is a simple concept that people can grab onto. You know, a symbol, a base level intellectualization that doesn't require a deeper investigation. Okay, so if you've got there's satellites, the government puts up satellites, Kinda. The government puts up satellites. Kind of.
Sometimes.
Government puts those up.
Most of them are private companies, but
Most of fucking like AT&T and shit.
right.
AT&T is trying to poison, but that's fucking the Bill Gates, Microsoft like conspiracy shit, you know. But like, okay, so those big robots in the sky, me no understand with caveman brain, which I fucking don't get them. I don't know how the fuck that shit works. But it's all literally just magic. It's fucking magic, crazy precious metals,
Radio waves, but yeah, also
fucking they might as well be like crystals. They are literally golden crystals, fucking floating in the sky around the Earth, sending magical fucking beams everywhere. I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't give a shit. I don't know how those work, but I'm not gonna like be like they're evil,
Right.
So, like, you know, like, so you got those.
But look back at the history of fucking witch trials and shit. People hate what they can't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that crazy mob mentality of
That's-
people
I mean,
who
right,
don't
that's-
educate themselves.
That's a pseudoscience in itself, you know.
And the problem is that with, again, the internet, now you can cater your education to what you want to be, to what you want to believe, you know. And that, going back to the scientific method, anybody who had a decent science professor or even science teacher in high school would tell you, you don't cater your experiments to prove your hypothesis. You
that's
cater
the
your experience
opposite
to
of-
disprove. You do everything you can to disprove it, because then if it comes out the other end, then you've got a solid fucking hypothesis.
Yeah, the culture now though is once you have an idea, you stick to it. You fucking
you
stick to your
cater
guns.
everything to
Just bad
to
science.
that bias.
That's pseudoscience. That's bad science.
That's just a bad way to do anything ever.
But yeah, so yeah, you get the fucking satellites. Government does that. The government does the injections. And what else do we know about the government? They police things. Like, so
What?
you put those together in a fucking straight line, and you're like, obviously they're trying to police us with the space satellites in our blood. Like, fucking,
God.
it
We're
doesn't.
getting real close to Jewish space lasers
It's-
here. We're getting so close.
I
I think so. So now that we're at the end of this podcast, I think what we're trying to say is that Jewish space lasers, real. They're coming after you. Vaccines full of microchips to explode your brain from space, and we're fully on board with that. So
yeah. I personally would like to see more space lasers.
I think it'd be pretty cool.
If you could like manifest a science to like something that isn't a science now, that would never be because it's ridiculous. If you could make one, what would it be?
Oh boy, I think I would go. You know what? We didn't really touch on this. I would go back to alchemy. I want to make gold out of rocks.
You know, I think of actually when I think of like human beings as like what's our special power, what makes us special. I think of alchemy because I mean,
Yeah.
look at like Minecraft and shit. You know, like what we do is we take rock, turn rock into tool, use tool to thing, and we're just fucking building
to
our
get-
alchemical shit. Yeah.
We use tool with rock to get iron.
Yeah, and then you move on from there. We're just constantly.
Then we smelt iron. Well, I guess bronze, iron. Yeah, iron, bronze, steel.
But I think the weirdest thing is that people consider alchemy like it's like let's make gold out of iron.
Well, that was during the heyday of alchemy. That was like the
I
goal.
guess like, oh, gold.
Yeah.
I think that alchemy is just what we fucking do already. You know, you take dirt and rocks and turn it into a sword. You know?
Hey, there's some steps in between, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. I would have psychotic killer robots.
That would be your.
I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, I think if I couldn't go back to something that was already established, it would be some sort of like make people have superpowers.
Superpowers.
Let's figure out how to make people. But then you have to come out with the boys. And
You know what I've thought about this my whole life.
the problem is that the fucking the corporate culture in this country would
fucking ruins
immediately
everything.
ruin it.
The thing that I think would be the coolest thing that we could do pretty much on Earth is to advance bioengineering
Okay.
to the point that you could make mythical creatures. Like, you know, like fucking seriously, like sign me up. I'm a centaur, you know, or I'm a fish person. Like you get to be 18 years old and you're like, you know what I want to do? I want to fucking live in the ocean.
Yeah.
And they make you a fish person.
Sure.
Or like, I want to soar with the eagles. You get fucking crazy bird wings and shit. Why aren't we doing that?
Let me ask you: are your bird wings attached to your existing arms, or do they come out of your back? So
Come out
you
of your
still
back,
have arms?
like the angel,
Like Archangel.
Yeah.
I got you. All right.
Well, I would have like feather wings like the angel, not steel wings like the archangel. That's more. That's
okay,
bioengineering.
That's
like biomechanical.
I mean, okay. Either way,
It's a fucking cool look.
pretty
though.
cool.
Like the blue and the silver and the purple. That's a
Yeah.
good fucking look. Archangel was rad.
Either way, you're flying, dude.
Yep, I've just thought about it forever. Like, why aren't we using this technology to make magic?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. Because of the
People think it's stupid. People
ethical
think
concerns, I think, really is probably
what
starts
ethical
with
concerns? You
ethical
get to be an adult and you're like, I want fucking wings, and they're like, oh, we can do that.
Okay, well, it's the same way we talk about like adults who want to go be like on the first fucking SpaceX manned mission to Mars, and I have to go. What do you think you're doing once you get there?
You die.
There's no established government.
I'd sign up for that shit.
You
right
are
away.
property of SpaceX. Work until you die. By the way, you get paid in fucking SpaceX credits that you can use at the SpaceX fucking consignment store.
Yeah, it's going to be fucking crazy.
Or the canteen. Yeah. Bullshit. You're going to be a slave. The first however many groups of people that go up there are slaves.
Yeah, fuck with stuff.
Because there's nothing to keep them from being slaves.
Yeah, but then you can do the first slave revolt on Mars. That'd be cool. That's a fucking
Against
cool
a bunch of robots.
Yeah, hell yeah. See, I mean, like, the people aren't willing
I've seen this movie. It ends
People
bad.
aren't willing to mix it up enough for our sci-fi culture. That's what I want.
Ethical concerns, I think, is what it boils down to.
Whatever.
Listen, if you can convince major corporations to start with the whole ethic reimagining, then I bet you things would be a lot easier.
I mean, like, not to get all political. All right.
But let's get all political.
No, I'm just saying.
We just went off on vaccines, and
I'm just saying. Yeah, well, like, that's not really.
It's been politicized.
I guess
it's a political topic now, is conspiracy theories, as is half of the shit we talked about today.
I want to be very clear that I am in support of trans people.
Sure,
but
same.
I also believe that if we had the technology and you could be a centaur and you really wanted to be, then you should be able to fucking do that.
And there'd be a bunch of right-wing nuts going, they want to force our kids to be centaurs.
They can't be centaurs.
They want to force children into centaur surgery.
I'm not going to give my kids any eagle wings and talons. Like, okay, be lame then, whatever.
You ain't going to make my precious Debbie a fish person, damn it.
It's like trans culture, you know what that is? Punk rock. They said, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah. Listen, I'm in favor of anything that anybody wants to do that only affects their own fucking life.
You want to be a mermaid? You want to be
want to talk about
centaur.
fucking trans people playing in the sport that they identify with. Like, when the fuck did you give a fuck about
what do you give a
college
shit about
college fucking track and field before
college women's soccer? You give a fuck about that?
Never.
Really? Now that's your
never.
It's not fair. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm really into women's swimming at the collegiate level.
You know what? Give it to them.
Get the fuck out of here.
Trans athletes want women's college soccer? Take it.
Give a shit.
Who gives a fuck?
I'm
looking forward to being a Birdman.
You don't think those things are considered when it comes to like drafting for professional or like Olympics or stuff like that? You don't think it comes into consideration? Like, even if you want to go, okay, well, she's getting all the records, but she's really a man. Like,
badass. I can't do that shit.
Well, and also without even going into the larger fucking conversation of, seems like a long way to go to be good at swimming.
Yeah, right.
Seems like a lot of things to do.
What a fucking con.
To be good at swimming.
So here's what I'm going to do. You figure out when you're like 10, you're like, I'm going to do?
Start taking hormone therapies now.
I'm going to transition while I exercise so that by the time I'm really good, I can get into the Olympics.
As a woman. I'm not really a woman.
You know what it reminds me of? That Johnny Knoxville movie, The Ringer. You ever see that?
Yeah.
Where he gets in the Special Olympics?
Yeah, I remember.
The only problem, legitimately, the only problem I see with that movie is that there's no fucking way Johnny Knoxville could beat Special Olympians. Those guys are unbelievable.
You're right. You're actually 100% right.
Like, my cousin Bobby has got Down syndrome, and he's a fucking Paralympic swimmer, and he's like a fucking fish. There's no, you're not going to do shit. You're not fucking beating that guy, Johnny Knoxville.
Listen,
all you're going to do is pee out of your reamed out dick hole.
Yeah. Not to like, demean anybody in any way, but people with those sort of, things like Down syndrome and stuff tend to be a lot more singular minded in the things that they are passionate about. In other words, they don't have to worry about, half of the things that other people have to worry about. They could just go, I really like swimming, and I'm going to do that all fucking day. And then suddenly you're like, God damn, Bobby is fast as shit. Like, that boy can swim. We have probably successfully pissed off enough people for tonight.
Yeah,
And,
but we pissed off the right people.
We pissed off the people we want to piss off, and
Yeah.
the people who aren't pissed off are the people who are like, these guys, cool. These guys are cool. I like these guys.
I want to be a centaur. Fuck yeah.
But thank you again for listening. As I said at the beginning, I cannot stress enough. I cannot beg enough. You're already on Spotify. You're already on Apple Podcasts.
Don't beg. That makes you seem so desperate.
You know what? This is how we get more popular. And if we get more popular, then things are so much easier on our end. And you guys are supporting us. And it's just really fucking cool. It's a whole community of just the 5 stars and the reviews, man. It makes a world of difference. So if you can, please give us 5 stars. Leave us a review. Tell us what you think about the show. Send us a message on deleteeverythingpodcast@gmail.com.
I'm not begging you for shit.
Okay, you don't have to. I'm here for
I'm
that.
a grown man. No, please.
There it is. He stuck to his guns for a whole 8 seconds.
I don't have time for any other hobbies. This is
Yeah,
all
right,
I've
no
got
shit.
right now in my life.
We also have...
Aside from my family.
Yeah, that's an important one.
It's a big one.
We also have Threads. We have Instagram. We have Facebook. Follow us on there. Send us a message. Say hello. Say goodbye. Say whatever you want to say. If you really want to support us, if you want to donate money to the show, helps us out a whole bunch. We have a Patreon, and you can subscribe to that. You get some short episodes.
We'll do a bunch more once people subscribe.
We have a couple more that I need to drop, and we need to get back on track with running one of those a week. Either way, we should do one a week.
We've been doing this we've been on the air for 6 weeks. We're fine.
That's true. That's true. But at any rate, we appreciate you regardless of what you do, and please come back and see us next week.
God, this is some fucking breathing room on this episode, huh?
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, just saying we got some breathing room here.
Yeah, it's incredible
it's
when
good.
it's just
It's
the two of us.
I love our guests, but God, this was just hanging out.
I loved every single one of our guests, and I love every single person who wants to be a guest, and I want to have every single person who wants to be a guest on here. But these are the sort of, it's easier to do it when it's just you and
this
I.
is how we started out, so it's just like fucking just dropping right into it.
Yeah. So, and again, like I said, the microphone coaching is a big one, dude. I can't, and I try and tell everybody beforehand, I'm like, look, just this is how far you want to be from the microphone. Just try. My favorite is and I try and put the boom mic where like they can be comfortable in their chair.
I like the boom drift where somebody's talking and the microphone just kind of drives.
Yeah. Or they lean back there in the middle of a story and they're like, yeah, so I went to the, and I'm like, and I push the microphone. I'm like, this is why I tried to put you in a comfortable position in the chair and put the fucking microphone where it needs to be. So I don't have to keep doing this. But you know what? They're not doing this on a weekly basis. We sucked at this when we first started doing this.
Yeah, that's right.
We go back and listen to our early episodes and they're trash.
Yeah.
So
we still got to remaster.
There's a learning curve. We're
gonna pull and remaster those early episodes at some point, but let's get through the first season first.
And we're gonna get better mastering equipment for these episodes and better equipment in general. And so subscribe to our Patreon.
All right, bye.
Bye.